right, we're going to start back in 2 minutes, just so everyone knows, 2 minutes. Okay, we're going to call the regular town council meeting to order at 7:19 p.m. We've already done the Pledge of Allegiance. Can we do a roll call, please?
Councilmember Yaffe?
Here.
Councilmember Slaughter?
Aquí.
Councilmember Reed?
Here.
Councilmember Morano?
Here.
Councilmember Fuller?
Here.
Vice Mayor Bruder?
Here.
Mayor Leonard?
Here.
All present.
Great. Next, we have requests for withdrawals, deferments, future agenda items. Anyone in the council?
Yes.
Yes. Councilmember Reed.
For future agenda items, I would like the attorneys to look at the possibility of requiring that before the P&Z sees any projects where they're lot combined, if we can require that unity of title is settled. Is that a realistic, not always.
Well, if I may address it, when there are developments on 2 or more lots that do not have a unity of title, one of the things we require in the site plan approval, assuming that it's approved, is that prior to any building permits that are issued, that a unity of title needs to be recorded. A unity of title is a very simple instrument that can be done in 10 minutes and recorded. So that's why we make it a condition. We do not require it beforehand because to the extent that a site plan that's approved doesn't get built and that the property owners want to do something different with it, they don't have to undo it, which is a little bit more complicated than it is to file a unity of title or to record a unity of title. So we always address it. I know it's been brought up a couple of times incorrectly, in my opinion, because it's a very simple matter, and it's always a condition that has to be done before any building permit can be issued. Does that make sense?
If that's what your recommendation is, then maybe we can get a consensus on the council. Does everyone tend to agree with the attorney?
Yes. Yeah.
Thank
It's
you.
a little bit more difficult to undo that.
It is. Okay.
Thank
Very difficult. Very easy to do.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I'd like to pull 3 and 4.
You're talking about the consent agenda? Okay. All right. Anything else? All right. Council reports. We'll start with you, Councilman Morano.
Well, I just wanted to say we had a beautiful article done in the Biscayne Times. You can Google it on Bay Harbor and the parks. And our prior council, Albert Reuter, I mean, he was the one who really, did great things with these parks, the 92nd Street, 98th Street, and I just want to appreciate the time and effort he has put in, and he was truly a civil servant for the people and really did a good job. And I hope that, the new Parks and Recreation Committee back there, can really just continue doing good things with parks. I would also like to say that I'm glad that Veterans Day is being celebrated, and we have a barbecue. And hopefully on the project that I proposed out on the causeway, there's a nice knoll there with a reflection pond. Perhaps one day we can dedicate that to the veterans. That would be nice. And I hope this meeting goes very well tonight. I hope that it's very quiet, because I'm not going anywhere. No one can intimidate me, and I'm here. I'm going up for re-election, and I plan on being here for a while. That's my 3 minutes.
Great. Councilmember Reed.
I'd like to say that I had put an item on the agenda about noise, and twice we failed to hear it. So I'm going to be very brief now, because I think that our system is not currently working, our new system, and we can try it out. But if there are items that don't make it the first time, I think they should be put higher up on the priority list. And it's imperative, because the alternative is that we come in another day and just talk about them. So maybe there should even be another section almost before anything else, that we catch up on what we missed, because theoretically, we would never get to some of these items. And people do come and they wait till the end of the meeting. So that's one thing, and then, well, I'll just leave it at that. Thank you.
Okay, Councilmember Salver?
Thank you very much. I just wanted to mention that I did participate in our annual Halloween parade and party. Apparently, some members of our community never left Halloween. It was great. I mean, I think we had the largest participation that we've had since we started it. And I know that everybody, all the children that participated, and even some parents, just had an awesome time. And I think it's, a wonderful event that we should continue to do for years to come. I just want to also mention that aside from the League of Cities meeting, which I'll let one of you guys talk about, I was also the chair of the Children's Trust Finance Committee. We had a very productive meeting about capacity building and directing funds to underserved communities, and it was an excellent, productive meeting. So that's my report.
Okay, Councilmember Fuller?
Just want to say I was at the Halloween Festival. It was very well done, and I want to thank staff. They did a great job for the Halloween Festival. I'm looking forward to seeing everybody, hopefully, at the Veterans Day Barbecue this Wednesday, and then at the Community Center on Thursday.
Yeah. Councilmember Yaffe?
Following up with that, on the Veterans Day, it's at 3:30, I believe, to 5 at Town Hall Barbecue, so please come to that. The Community Center groundbreaking, as Councilmember Fuller mentioned, is the following morning at 10 a.m., so everybody is invited to that. I did attend the Miami-Dade County League of Cities meeting last week in Key Biscayne. It's a very good event. They collected toys, holiday toys, for kids to be distributed next month, and there was a very good turnout. And I do agree with Councilmember Reed that items that are carried over should be advanced on the agenda, perhaps call the carryover section, so that we make sure that those items are not carried over for more than one meeting. That's it. Thank you.
Councilmember?
First of all, I also attended the Halloween event, and I want to thank Bridget and the Chamber of Commerce of Miami Beach for putting on a fantastic and bigger Halloween party, and I know that next year it's even going to get bigger and better. Also, I want to let you know Thanksgiving is coming up, so I want to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving, and I do want to let you know that the school is going to be going under construction, the field. They are putting in new drainage. I don't know exactly when, but it's part of the bond from Dade County, and they informed us, and they should be giving us the schedule of when they're starting it and when they will be completing it. And they are also letting us know that they will be redoing the basketball courts, and they will have 2 floors of classrooms, but they haven't shown us any drawings yet, but they are under, it's also under the bond. Thank you.
Great. I'll be brief. I also attended the Halloween event. Thank you so much for what staff did. I mean, this year I think there's almost twice as many kids that showed up as last year, and almost 400 kids. That's really incredible. Thank you so much, everybody that came out, and hopefully we'll keep it up next year. I also attended the League of Cities meeting in Key Biscayne and a few other meetings, but other than that, we'll get started with the regular council. Town Manager, your report, please.
You've already mentioned we have a groundbreaking for the community center on the 12th at 10 a.m. The holiday decorations are currently being installed and will be ready for the holiday season. I have to tell you that a lot of the work that gets this ready was done in the prior year, mostly the electrical work, getting conduit and service to the areas we wanted to or anticipated doing it. So it's going in on time, and it should be really nice. Again, you all mentioned the Halloween parade. If you attended it, it was fantastic. I'd like to thank Bridget, DPW, Regine, the Chamber of Commerce, of course, who does this with us. It was a good sign when you run out of candy really fast. We added some extra, not toys, but rides and things to do. So I know next year will be better. I'm not going to tell you that we were a little panicked at about 2:45, 3, when there wasn't a soul on the field,
and within about 15 minutes, like 400 people showed up. So it was really fun. And lastly, I'd like to just, in a follow-up with Cape Broad, they have started, they're digging up that field, and they anticipate like in February. That's what they say.
Do they give you the, I'm sorry.
No, they didn't give me the building, but they're going to town on the field right now.
But did they give you the schedule?
They said in February. I don't have it in front of me, I just spoke to Maria. No, started, finished in February.
Yeah, they already started now.
Right.
Yeah.
But just the field, the building itself, I don't know.
That's another
And
thing.
the field, can I just interject, as I understand it's going to be an artificial turf field, so
Yes.
this will take care of some of the recurring problems that we've had over there.
You won't need to water it, you can plant it all the time, it will be a marked improvement of what they have now.
That's great.
I am going to ask, and I'm going to ask Craig and Frank to follow up with this. As you know, back, it's a while ago that we contracted or asked FDOT when they were doing their project to also include our bridges, and you approved $650,000 or in that neighborhood to do the work. When the bridge project kicked off, it was clear that the traffic MOT was going to heavily impact it, so we had to take that out of the project. However, when you measured out the percentages of each bridge, the three bridges, the ICW was 75% of the total. However, they only want to return 25% of the money. So we've been going back and forth on this for some time, and I just need and would like your approval to file in court to get our 75% back.
The 75% in real dollars is $292,300 and something dollars. We sent a demand to FDOT and have heard nothing back from them. We're happy to send a second and final demand, but we wanted to make sure with another council meeting, not until January, that we get a jump, and to the extent that we need to file suit, we do so and get a 2015 file suit, then 2016.
Do you need a motion, or can we just have a consensus?
You can just have a consensus.
I have a question.
Sure.
We're talking about a city suing the state, and each entity incurring legal fees for that. Is there any way that we can ask for intervention from our elected officials, our legislators, maybe ask the lobbyists to get involved? It just seems silly to me that we have to drop a lawsuit on our own state.
Sure. You do have a prevailing party attorney's fees, and you have an accounting provision in the contract. We asked for, if they had any issue with our numbers, what we think we're owed, that we have an accounting within 45 days as the contract provided. No response. We're sending a follow-up, but I'm assuming if they didn't respond once, I don't see why they're responding again. So they haven't even agreed to what they did contractually, that we would have an accounting as to what they did, what they spent, if there's any monies that they claim are ramp-up fees or anything else that would offset the $293,000.
But just so you know, the town is going to do that. It's not that they're just going to start suit tomorrow. They are going to do that. But in case that doesn't go well and they need to file something just to file it for 2015, we need to give them the opportunity.
How are we going to do that? Is administration going to reach out to the governor's office or the legislature? Would you like us to all reach out to our contacts in the legislature?
I don't think it's necessary. I will do that, and Craig and I will work on that. I'm sure, I don't want to say too much on that, but we will make efforts. We will make every effort short of filing suit. But if we don't hear back from them, or we don't get anywhere by December, we would like to file that so that we get a 2015 case number.
I will be meeting with Gus Pago if he's still there. I know he was in the midst of retiring.
Yeah, yes.
So there was some transition there, but they have been rather difficult. The recent FDOT project that we just went through on King Concourse was,
Difficult.
it was, that's being nice. It was very difficult.
We can always dismiss, I mean, it's not like it's inviolate, but we have to show we mean business. I agree with you that we should try every political avenue that we possibly can, and with staff and with Ron we could reach out to Dave Caserta and whomever and try to avoid this. This is not something we want. It's just their total absence from any response is just really telling of their position.
I mean, they work for the governor ultimately, so if they're not responding just
Yeah.
on that alone, you know, I would think a couple letters, but how many hours, you know, more or less, are involved from your firm just to file the motion? What would you say?
It'd be
For a complaint, no more than 4 to 5 hours. I mean, it's a very simple complaint. Now let me step back. Randy Daniel has put a lot of time, energy into communicating with them, making demands, making requests. You know, this is no less than our 4th attempt. They finally got us involved because they were just getting nowhere, and finally they issued a check for peanuts compared to what was requested. We believe that there's no less than $499,000 due, and they issued a check for 200 and something thousand. They didn't respond to why did you send that little. We only got involved, we were asked to get involved because it was going nowhere. And they felt that, or staff felt that getting us as attorneys involved would help progress the discussions, but that did nothing.
Yeah, you have to understand when they submit and they break out the job, so when you're justifying $650,000, everything is done very specifically for them. So just using their own contract numbers, this doesn't even take into account that what they got the job bid for, because clearly they got the low bidder on this one. I don't know if $650,000 really was what they paid. They could have paid less, but you can't get that out of them.
Do you know if they report to a transportation committee at the state level? Because I would suggest maybe reaching out to them and letting them know there certainly has to be someone, you know, below the governor's office.
Yeah, but the FDOT, in my past experience, and we've had some experience with them, and they are a very powerful, very autonomous entity within the government as well. And they have a huge budget. I mean, they're not the easiest folks to deal with, and sometimes you have to pound them over the head.
File and you'll get their attention.
Yeah, I'd say
I
like...
mean, we eliminated a $499,000 portion of the project that they never started on. Never. I mean, these are their numbers. So I used their numbers, and they gave us, I mean, of all the work that they didn't do, they still owe us $292,000. I mean, I've used their numbers.
So basically, you're saying we're going to try every avenue, but if
We can't, we need to
not, if it doesn't, we will file before the end of 2015 so that we get it on the docket for
Correct.
2015.
Can we have a consensus for that?
But wait a minute, isn't there an arbitration clause or
No.
something that...
No.
For state?
No. No, we reserve the right to an accounting, which they have failed to provide us with. All we really wanted to do was go in and meet with them and see what their numbers are. I mean, we know that there was $499,000 of work they did not do, pursuant to what they valued it at. So we knew that was a basis. All we did was say to them, look, this is what we think you owe us based upon your numbers. If you disagree with that, we have a right to an accounting. Let us know within 45 days pursuant to our agreement when we can meet with you to find out what the numbers are. And
Generally speaking, was this work something that we would notice? Is it just paving? Is it something underneath the bridge?
No,
Or is it an
this
amenity
is
we
like the
didn't receive?
Indian Creek Bridge. The last time we paved our bridges was well over $1 million. So when they said because they're doing the road, King Concourse and 96th Street, it made sense since they're mobilized, their engineers are working and doing all the work there. They said they would do it, and they gave us a price of, I think it was $658,000 to do that work, which we agreed to, and they wouldn't proceed unless you pay them up front. So that's just the way the state works.
So it's paving.
It's paving, but it's bridge paving, which is a little, because they also have to put in, we took it off only because the work on the ICW is involved enough that if we had done it, you could see what, it would have been damaged, it would look horrible, and we've been doing it over again.
So I'll make a motion that we reach out as best we can.
We definitely make a motion to that. We have no agenda items.
Just a consensus.
Can we just, do we have a
Okay, so
consensus?
can we
Yes.
Okay, very good.
Yes.
All right, we're going to move on. Any other comments, Mr. Manager?
Thank you.
All right, hearing none. Public comment, we have Jeffrey Coster. Come on up. There you go.
I'm Jeff Coster, 1135 103rd Street. I don't know what's happening with the Landmarks Commission on Bay Harbor Island, but these people are ruthless. What's happening with Bay Harbor Continental, the building that I live in, and it was under contract, they designated it a landmark. There was a delay that was overturned. We were going to closing, and Solomon Nemad, one of our residents, issued a lawsuit stopping the closing, stating that we didn't have the proper signatures on the contract. He lost that case. The significant thing is that Kent Harrison Robbins was one of his attorneys. Kent Harrison Robbins is the attorney for Mitch Novak, who's the chair of the Preservation Society. We set another closing date, and Solomon Nemad did an appeal, stopping the closing again. At the same time, another group of people in our building are suing the Dade County Commissioners, Bay Harbor Continental, and the developers to overturn the decision for the landmarking again. So, I don't know what you folks are going to do, but just look out for these people. As far as term limits, which have been discussed for the town council, I think that would be a big mistake, because it takes a certain amount of sophistication, knowledge of sitting on a council to know how to handle a council. I've been coming here for 30 years, and for the 30 years I've been coming here, Mrs. Newhut and other people have been gloom and doom. And it seems to me that our town has done very well with the people that we have here. And Kelly, the people you sat with in the historic preservation, fighting for designation of my building, these are the people that are causing us, they're retired, a tremendous amount of hardship. If you see somebody standing with a cardboard sign saying, "We'll work for special assessments," that's going to be me. And Kelly, you're a great ventriloquist, because every time Mrs. Morano speaks, I never see your lips move.
Thank you for your...
May I address that? Or will you? Because really, you should address it. It's not appropriate.
I would say, please don't, Mr. Coster, we mentioned this before, I would ask everyone to refrain from making comments about individual members of the council, or certainly people that are not here. So I would appreciate that. Thank you.
No, I think it's disrespectful, one, the way you refer to me. I've always been extremely respectful to you, Mr. Coster. And maybe you should look for some of the other ventriloquists and other activity going on here, not just what you perceive on one end.
Now, wait a minute. I am an intelligent person, and nobody makes my lips move but me. So just so you know.
Mr. Coster, please. All right, Mr. Coster, please. Yenny Camejo? You gonna come up?
Dr. Miami will speak for myself.
Okay, come on.
I want to know how this works, actually.
Well, come on up.
Down here, right? There's a trap door.
Name and address for the record, please.
Here, instead.
Name and address, please.
That's right?
So, name and address before you start.
For the record.
Dr. Miami, Trap Lord, Solvin Ruler, 1738, King Concourse, Dr. Miami. Greetings, citizens, overlords, and dungeon master. This democracy is very amusing to me. I never know where to look. Who's in charge? What about important issues? final decision to go to war. Two women brought a baby before you, arguing over it. Who would hold the sword to cut it in half? If I were begging for my life and I was going to be executed, to whom would I beg? Everybody? Would I bribe you all? Or you split the pot? But I come in peace. I come in peace. These are my people. We haven't gone to war since we invaded Linaria. It was over a lollipop, actually. Turned out I left it in my other pants. About the parking situation, with your consent, I can raise an army, invade and conquer the neighboring town of Surfside in no more than 3 or 4 days. We'll have plenty of parking spaces and a beach to boot. But last meeting, which I did watch in its entirety on my DVR, it's very impressive how you use boredom to hold your grip on power. Interesting. Joshua Fuller insulted and demeaned the princess, Rosie. I am here to defend her honor. I challenge you to a duel. On trackmobiles jousting at the location and time of your choosing. I've said my piece. Good night.
All right, thank you for your comments, Doctor. Next, I'm assuming that all the individuals at 1072 King Concourse.
I have one more thing.
No, thank you so much. Next, we have Francis Newhut.
Follow that one.
Francis Newhut, 1060 King Concourse. How is it possible that the town would write into Newswaves stating that the King Concourse is a thriving business district, especially when one can easily check out these deserted 2 blocks that are congested with traffic 2 to 3 times a day with school traffic? After reviewing the town's 2015 business tax receipts, there were only 10 retail stores and 8 restaurants located on the King Concourse Business District. Although the town has strict codes that supposedly regulate usages in the business district, business tax receipts, and parking incentives for restaurants and retail on the ground floor of the King Concourse, why in the past 5 years are we seeing more of non-permissible usages on the King Concourse? A school, many real estate offices, town events instead of using the town's park with garage parking and bathrooms, our interlocal agreement with the school, and other office usages that have been using and burdening the majority of town business districts' parking spaces. Recently, we had a new transient 96 Gateway Hotel with no restaurant, and the town possibly approving 40 off-street parking spaces. Not a burden to the business district, right? Or a preschool on the King Concourse, whose entrance is in the back, and that supposedly is not using the town's parking spaces. Or a tattoo removal parlor that was turned down with a possible replacement of a doctor's office. Last week, there have been rumors of Bal Harbor Church by the Sea that was being purchased and removed by the Bal Harbor shops with the intent of building a 60,000 square foot church school and relocating to another Bal Harbor property. They instead possibly purchase and change the usage of Ocean Cadillac, one of Bal Harbor Island's largest retail stores in the business district. Is it possible that other business districts became successful, such as Bal Harbor, Surfside, and others in close proximity, without the usage of non-profit schools, churches, mosques, temples, etc. on their ground floor, due to recognizing that tax benefits and increasing property values are there when there is a real thriving business district? Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Again, I'm passing over the individuals that if you, Doctor. Mr.
No, we have grievances, we have issues.
Doctor, please.
Mostly, not me, Rosie can speak.
All right, are you...
I'm Rosie Diane.
Okay, yes.
Misunderstanding.
Rosie, okay. All right, give you 3 minutes.
Okay. I am Rosie Diane of 1072 King Concourse. I was here last meeting to talk about our business license for 1072 King Concourse, that we wanted to open a retail space with an upstairs floor of Botox and laser tattoo removal, which was rejected instead of a doctor's office. So our grievance is that, basically it was getting turned down because you said I was trying to do some backwards way into opening a doctor's office, which was kind of offensive. We really do want to open a retail store. As you can see, we have characters that we're trying to sell and that we want to use the retail space for.
Explain.
Yeah.
Explain in detail.
Detail? we have
Still have the Snapchat.
Yes, we have a following of about 700,000 people that watch every word this man says behind me.
Every word.
And we're actually trying to bring business to King Concourse, which is a pretty dead street. I don't know if you guys walk down it. Nothing goes on there. No. So we're trying to build a retail space, a fun space for people to come, and just we wanted to use the upstairs for, some Botox or laser tattoo removal that our clients also would want to benefit from. And there are plenty of other spaces on King Concourse which you've allowed to do that, so I'm not really sure why we were turned down for it. I could list, there's the Buwari Clinic, there's next door, Wow Brows, they do aesthetic services. We had to get a super limited business license that took 2 days for the town lawyer to look through to say we're not allowed to do anything cosmetic, we can't do any esthetician services, we can't do anything that we tried to apply for. So it wasn't very fair of the council, and that's why we're here, to talk about that. I'm not sure, I guess if we wanted to add it to the next meeting agenda. Is this the place to do it, here now? Or how do I do that?
It would actually be tomorrow with the town clerk. This is
Okay, with
Good
the town
Warfare.
clerk. So, did I miss anything?
Excellent.
Excellent, okay. Well, thank you for listening to us, and that's all.
Thank you for your comments.
And we have a clarification on the allegations you just made, and, what the council did and what the clerk's office does for the business tax receipt.
Basically, they were approved for retail. That's what I can approve them for. They came here with another proposal that was not approved by the council. They reapplied, complied with everything pretty much that you guys spoke about, and I approved along with the town attorney's review of their application, I approved the new application for a retail space. The previous ones that they were talking about were probably under the auspices of the 180-day vacancy of an office space can be another office space.
Right.
Every case is different. So we look at every building, we look at who occupies it, we look how long they occupied it, we have a list that we check. So it's you picked the wrong spot. Every building is different.
Excuse me.
I'm sorry.
And didn't the contract say medical spa within it?
Yes, it did.
Yeah.
It did, and they addressed that issue. They changed everything over to comply with retail, and that's what they got.
I would hate the Royals to leave here thinking that they were treated unfairly. We want you to understand why it was done.
Yeah.
So do you understand now that she explained it?
No, because 2 doors down, they're opening an interior designer, and that's been vacant for more than a year.
You cannot, interior design, you cannot compare yourself with every other building. There's a rule, I tried to explain to you, 75%, 50%, depending on the building. You still don't understand it, I'll be happy to explain it to you again tomorrow.
I think if you have further questions, I think you should direct them towards the staff tomorrow.
Okay.
That'd be great.
Okay, perfect.
All right, thank you so much for
Wait a
coming.
minute, I have a question.
Oh.
How can they still call themselves doctor on the first
It's
floor?
it's a name, it's a DBA.
Yeah, it's
Not
a
a-
DBA.
not a-
Yes.
Yeah, but I mean, you're talking about you don't want medical on the first floor, but yet you're misleading by putting Dr.
As long as they're not actually performing medicals,
Yeah,
they can call themselves what they want.
Yeah.
They say they're a retail store. Just people are misled by the name doctor. I mean, I hope that they will be successful, of course.
Yeah, of course.
But, it's up to them to name themselves. We can't control what they name themselves.
Right. We're going to move on with Good and Welfare. Paul Rufield, come on up. Tough act to follow.
Paul Rufield, 1231 95th Street. What I've come up here for is just to alert you to something that's going on in your own community and that serves your own community. And that's the Miami Beach Senior High School Alumni Association. Miami Beach Senior High School was built in 1926, and that's when it started. Same year, by the way, that the University of Miami started. Since then, there, of course, have been tens of thousands of graduates over that period of time. Now, for example, the graduating class this year will be over 600. So it keeps growing, and by the way, it services Bay Harbor Island as their high school if they want to go to public schools. And I know some of you in this group took advantage of that when you were students. We are having this weekend the Hall of Fame event, and I just thought you'd like to know that a couple of the people that are being inducted are former residents of Bay Harbor Island. In addition, Mayor Zilber is being inducted into the Hall of Fame. I'm sorry to say, I'm not here for money, so don't worry about that. We frankly did very well on our own. We're going to have an affair. Unfortunately, we have to take it off Miami Beach because we just don't have a place that can fit. We took it, for example, this year to Temple Israel. It's been there a few years now, and it's done because there's free parking. The hotels, the absolute minimum, because they have the room, the absolute minimum they want is $14 a car. Well, frankly, we'd rather not spend the money on that. We'd rather spend the money on more important things. Even though we're sold out, I just want to remind you all that we're always open to receive funds as donations for scholarships that can be named in any name you wish. Again, thank you. Have a good evening, much better than you've had so far.
Sure. And by the way, congratulations, Mayor Zilber. That's really an honor.
Can we make a donation of $500 in your honor?
Well, there's a form for that, so I would ask if you can submit the form, we can have it on the agenda, because we have a standard form for nonprofits, so I would ask them to do the same thing, submit the form, fill it out, and we can have it on the agenda for January.
Can you do that for us?
So, okay, so we'll get that over to you. Public comment is over. The First Amendment there. We have the consent agenda. We're pulling 3 and 4. Any other items that wish to be pulled?
I'll move it.
Second. We have a motion second. Can I have a poll vote, please?
Don't need it now that you took those out.
Okay, great.
For 5, I thought we do need it.
Do you need it for 5?
No?
Yeah.
Nope.
No?
Nope.
Good. Okay. All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone against? Okay, great. Item number 3, please.
Item 3, consideration and approval of an expenditure in the amount of $16,759 to Astron Incorporated for purchase and installation of a new air conditioning system to regulate the computer server room.
I'll move it.
Second.
All right, Councilmember Morano, you're up.
Yeah, the only thing that I wanted to know about this is it looks like a cut and paste job, and I'm wondering, what was it supposed to cost back in March of 2014 that we okayed, and now it's 16,000.
I'm not sure.
If you look at this proposal, it says revised from March 2014. The proposal says revised from March 5th, 2014. And then, this is a cut and paste, because I cut and paste. The dollars are 16,007. Was this the original amount of this proposal from 2014? Or
I'm not sure. I can guarantee you that it's not. It's probably went up because, as in most things 2 years ago, the price wouldn't be held the same. We've added a lot more computer servers to our system, particularly with the toll plaza and some of the things we're doing in town. So we need to AC that unit, and what we had there wouldn't keep up with it. So.
No, I mean, I agree with that, but it was just seems that from 2014 to 2015 was just a big jump. That's a year and a half. And we budgeted for how much before, you know what I'm saying? That's where because I think you said that it was already budgeted. So I was wondering what the difference was, but...
The original proposal from March 2014, they gave us that proposal for budgeting purposes, and then when it came time to do the work, they submitted a revised proposal.
So what was the difference between what we budgeted
I
and
don't
what
know
we...
if there was a difference.
All right. That's okay. Okay.
I'll move it.
We have a
Already
motion in a
moved.
second.
I'm sorry.
You want to call a question? You want to call a question?
Do you want to defer it until you get the information?
Oh, I mean, that's just...
Why did it take so long, then? What was it? I don't understand. It was a year and a half? Is it because the project was delayed and we just now need to pay the bill or something?
No, we were redoing the IT area, so before, we actually brought in a temporary unit until we got, Roberto moved over to his new office. We were moving a lot of the internal things over there, so that room picked up to need more air conditioning. So I didn't know where we were going to relocate some of the...
So you haven't needed it in a year and a half, and now...
No, we've been using some other ways of cooling the room, temporary.
Marlene, call the question, please.
Randy Daniel, Town Engineer. I haven't been before you for a long time. Councilmember Reed. I budgeted this last year, and that's when I got the quote from Airstream. I felt that our IT room was a room that we had to rely on tremendously. We converted to SunPass, and every transaction was going through those computers. We have had failures with the computer system in there, where we had problems with the air conditioning for that room before, at least twice. And I was told by Airstron that the units we had were just, commercial, typical sort of units, and we didn't have something that was dedicated for an IT room. At that point, I felt, we had too much riding on that room to use some sort of, a run-of-the-mill sort of unit, and I said, let's get something that's designed for an IT area. And that's how we got this quote, and we did the project. Again, we had problems, system broke down, air conditioning system broke down, and, we didn't lose anything. That's before we went to SunPass. I just felt it was an important
I'm sure your
facility.
need for the actual air conditioning is very valid. I was just curious why the year and a half time frame. That's all.
Well, we budgeted it for this year, for the year, this fiscal that just completed.
It's just that this proposal said revised from March 14, March of 2014.
We were supposed to have done it in the fiscal year that just finished.
We're going to go for a vote. Thank you so much, Randy.
Call the question, please.
Okay. A vote?
This doesn't require a full vote, it's under 20,000.
All in favor,
All
say
in
aye.
favor, say aye. Aye.
Anyone against? Okay, no one against. Number 4, please.
Item 4, consideration and approval of a proposal from Alan J. Ford to the Florida Sheriff's Association to purchase two 2016 Ford F-150 trucks in the amount of $45,337.90. This was an approved budgetary item. We budgeted $50,000. What might be confusing is you see the sheriff's office, it's not police cars, but because the sheriff's office buys so many vehicles, they get better pricing, so we're just buying on a piggyback on their contract.
Councilman Morano, what's your question?
Question was, what you do with the old automobiles?
Oh, we auction them off.
So that's what I'm saying. So do this, but then you auction off, so maybe we get a little money back.
Yeah,
That's all
always.
I'm asking.
All right, can I have a motion?
I'll move it.
A second?
Second.
Good. Paul, please.
Councilmember Yaffe?
Four.
Councilmember Salver? Not here. Councilmember Reed? 4. Councilmember Morano?
4.
Councilmember Fuller?
4.
Vice Mayor Ruder?
4.
Mayor Leonard?
4.
Passes.
Great. Item number 6, please.
Consideration and approval of an ordinance on first reading requested by Councilmember Yaffe, amending section 5-12.2 of the Town Code relating to driveways in the residential single-family district.
An ordinance of the Town Council of the Town of Bay Harbor Islands, Florida, amending the town's code of ordinances as related to driveways in the RD Single Family District, amending section 519.2 of the Building and Construction Code to provide regulations for security gates at driveway entrances for homes along King Concourse, to modify regulations for allowable driveway width, and to modify the list of permitted and prohibited driveway materials, providing for severability, providing for codification, and providing an effective date.
I'll move it.
Motion a second. Any discussion? Hearing none?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Madam Morano?
I have a problem, and no offense, Ron. But in here, everything is saying, unless otherwise approved by the town manager. I mean, I don't think that should be included in here. I think it should be the P and Z where it says, or the P and Z. I mean, I think it should be left that the P and Z is the one who approves these things.
And May I make a response?
Sure, go ahead.
A number of years ago, the council, granted the manager administrative approval authority over certain items, including driveways. So I think the intent of the ordinance change a number of years ago was that if somebody was simply going to replace a driveway and do no other, modifications to their property, take out, bricks and put in, one of those, something else or something like that, in making no other changes, that the manager would have the authority to approve that so that the project could move forward without undue delay. On the other hand, if somebody's going to undergo a major renovation to their property, then they may need to come to planning and zoning to get approval for their new driveways, which they currently do. So really, I think the managerial approval is if you're simply just changing the material of your driveway and doing nothing else.
Well, I don't know if that says that. This is about configuration and everything else. That's where, again, me personally, I would like that taken out.
It doesn't say it, but I think at a certain point, you have to have some trust in the town manager. I mean, we have to be able to rely on certain things.
What I have a problem with is everything now is by discretion, whether it's Mr. Miller's discretion, this one's discretion, and this is where there's abysses and things are falling in between. I mean, planning and zoning should be handling all the planning and zoning issues. I mean, that's what I feel.
I understand your hesitancy. The only issue, though, is that we're trying to make things not too complicated. If somebody comes in for something minor, the idea that they have to then go through planning and zoning, the idea that they have to go through a whole process that takes for a long time, additional dollars, just is not fair to the resident. If it's something major, we have to be able to rely on the manager that he says, look, this is something minor, I can take care of it, or if it's major, it goes to planning and zoning. And I think that's just the way we should process things, this and other things.
Just to set your mind at ease, I don't know how long you changed that. I think in all that time, I think I've seen 2 driveway applications come before me, and I certainly don't do it or make any decision without speaking with Mike Miller, and actually, I turned down one, so it's not an instant approval, and that's all I can tell you.
I think also when the council was a planning and zoning board, I guess this is when we made this change. Is that right, Marlene?
Yes.
Way back when, and we found as the board at the time that there were so many little items that were coming before the planning and zoning board, which really didn't require the planning and zoning board to approve, such as, just a driveway material change and some other items, certain painting and signs and so forth. And so, I mean, that was the rationale behind taking it out of planning and zoning and going to administrative approval. and when either Marlene, there were certain items, for example, signs that she felt that she couldn't or shouldn't approve, or, something that was under the manager's authority, that they would come back to planning and zoning, which I think they've done on occasion.
Again, my problem is that there's more things that are at everyone else's discretion, and we seem to have no control over anything. I mean, it's just, if things are being done, and we don't even know about them.
Well, that may be a reporting issue. We do have a requirement somewhere that, and I've seen this in the past, that when administrative approvals are granted, the manager or the administration will report to the council. So, if there's a lack in that, then we can take a look at it so that, the members of the council are aware of the approvals. Although I'm not aware that there have been very many administrative approvals that we're not advised of.
The only one I know right now is the one I said no to.
But that's a good idea, so would that satisfy what you,
What's going on?
well, at least, if he takes the administrative action and then just sends us all an email and lets us know about it, if it's, within the guidelines or the criteria?
I still have, if this is a planning and zoning issue, I think it should be in front of planning and zoning, not in front of a town manager.
Just a minor.
Well, I don't think the manager needs to send us an email every single time he approves every single little thing. I think that we have to, I would agree that we should have some faith in our manager to run the day-to-day operations. It's not the purpose of this elected body to run the day-to-day operations of the town. That's why we hire a manager. That's why we have this form of government.
Jordan, by the way, it was like a monthly report. It wasn't daily or weekly.
No, but I'm saying I don't mind a monthly report, but I don't think that we need to know every single little thing, so,
Well, but I think we should have a monthly report.
there's nothing,
I think once a month, if you're going to approve something so that,
There's nothing wrong with that. That's fine.
We'll be happy to do that.
that way, whether it's in our packet before the next, meeting, just, if you're going to, I know you
Actually,
rarely
I'd be much
do-
happier just sending it, as soon as I did it, to send it right away. Because I
I'm
don't have
not
to worry
looking for
about
a
it monthly.
report. That's not what I'm saying here. It's a matter of taking codes or setbacks or driveways or, I don't think that's got anything to do with the town manager who's supposed to be running the infrastructure of the town. That's all. I think that, it should be back to P&Z. We've taken so much off this council, we hardly do anything anymore. We have no control over anything. That's all. I'm just saying, the only problem I have with this is putting it at the discretion of the town manager or P&Z. I just would like it at P&Z handling the things.
all right, so we're gonna have, if there's no more discussion, we can have a poll vote, please.
Sure.
Councilmember Yaffe. No, 7. I don't have one for 6.
Excuse me. If you want to speak, you can come speak and fill it in, so, Mrs. Newhut, if you want to speak on number 6, you can please come and speak and then fill it out.
Mayor, I would encourage, people in the audience who want to speak on multiple items to fill out the forms at
please
one
do.
time when they come in, so that we don't have this situation of missing forms.
It's not there, so please. Mrs. Newhut, please speak. We have a meeting. Please
Go ahead,
speak.
he said you can go.
I asked Bridget twice.
Please speak.
You upset me before I even start. Okay, first of all, from the last meeting, Councilman Yaffe really confused us, because he said we're only talking, and it was in the newswaves also, that we're approving these, I guess you added asphalt is not permitted anymore. So we're talking about products for the driveways. So when you open this and you read it, it says here, ordinance of first reading requested by Councilman Yaffe, amending section 5-12.2. Well, guess what? That's not this ordinance, okay? This ordinance, we're talking about, Mr. Miller, writing the ordinance for the, 5-23.1. That's the planning and zoning. Okay, it's a different ordinance. Number 2, I come here and, it's supposed to be, I see here that we're modifying the regulations for allowable driveway widths. I don't know how many planning and zoning boarding meetings I have been going to lately.
Excuse me, hold on one second. Mrs. Kennedy, please show some respect to the people who are speaking. Thank you.
I just lost 5 seconds. I just lost 8
Excuse
seconds.
me,
I just
Mrs.
lost
Kennedy.
9 seconds. I want my 9 seconds.
You can have your 9 seconds.
9 seconds. I'll count them up first here.
You know, this council is getting crazy, you know that? Okay, so anyway, now we have on here, we're modifying regulations for allowable driveway widths. And you don't have to be a rocket scientist to drive around the neighborhood, Jordan, because you live in our neighborhood now, to see that these driveways are all concrete. All concrete. There's no setbacks. And maybe I'm losing my vision, or you're losing your vision, because now Mr. Miller is writing new codes saying that there's no laws. Well, there are laws. We not only have laws, but we have a minimum landscaping code. And we're not impervious, we have more impervious surfaces than we ever did. And flooding. And I take pictures of near your house. There's so much flooding when there's water and rain. And here you are, with the width of the driveway. Let's make them wider, or let's make them smaller, or let's get rid of landscaping altogether and not have setbacks at all. So this is not right. And also about the town manager. It's already in here in the last code that the town manager is involved in this. And that's why we got to stop this. When does the town manager know about driveways? Our best people are our architects. They're the ones who know what they're doing. I've had incidences recently with the town planner approving signs with the town planner. Did you see some of these signs? And my windows? I have time. And on my windows, town manager has approval. I have 8 seconds more. Town manager approved these dark windows that are not approved. Why are we giving all this work to the town manager? Let him stick to the CDRs and maybe putting them with the Miami-Dade Property Appraiser's Office so we have it recorded. And we don't have to go waiting for a year for give us what we have in the budget here. All I know is it's in a file cabinet downstairs hiding somewhere. We have no idea where our money is anymore. And we don't have no idea what the council's doing anymore.
Thank you so much for your comments.
Gordon, I just have a follow-up comment, if I might.
Go ahead. Excuse me, hold on, I'm going to say, Mrs. Kennedy, this is your final warning.
I'm thanking you for...
I know, but this is not your place. If you keep it
It's a
up,
compliment.
if you keep it up...
Let's just...
It's a compliment to you, Jordan. Relax.
Thank you. I don't want to make a follow-up comment, please. Please. This is, I think, the third time that this driveway ordinance is on the council, before the council. I brought this up a couple of months ago because I was concerned about the trend of new construction in town with these sort of what I call concrete houses, and the tendency of these new homes to have basically concrete courtyards in the front and have no green, no landscaping, and these were being approved by planning and zoning because the ordinance permitted it. The intent of my bringing this before the council for the modifications is to limit the amount of concrete and to require additional landscaping and additional grass and additional greenery when these new projects come before the Planning and Zoning Board. So that's what this ordinance does. We were delayed a little bit because there was there were residents who had installed a driveway which did not conform to the existing code. Those residents came to council, they spoke to us in the administration, they asked us to take a look at the driveway that they had installed. And most of us, I guess, or probably all of us did so at some point. We made a determination that we liked what we saw, and then, or some of us did anyway. I don't want to speak for anybody else. I liked what I saw, so that new type of driveway was included here. I did not personally add or remove anything, and again, the intent was to make our houses look nicer. Hopefully, that will happen. And I will also note that when we amend our ordinances, we take advantage of amendments sometimes and ask our planner or our town attorney to take a look at it and see whether there's any additional language which should be updated, clarified, modified. There was an issue in there about concrete driveways which already existed in town and whether they met the ordinance or did not. I asked that that be clarified as well, and the town attorney did that. So that's how come there's a little bit more strikeouts and underlining than simply driveway materials.
I'm assuming this is a Scribner's error also on the agenda, so that's right, which is fine because it's not actually in the ordinance.
Yeah.
And I just want to say for the record that even though that the last speaker so eloquently mentioned that I live on the West Island, I like to consider all of Bay Harbor Island's one neighborhood and not just being on the east or the west island. So even when I was on the council on the east island, I still drove on the west island. So I think there's one and the same. But we have a poll vote, so Madam Clerk, please call it.
Councilmember Yaffe.
4.
Councilmember Salver.
4.
Councilmember Reed.
4.
Councilmember Morano.
4.
Councilmember Fuller.
4.
Vice Mayor Buder.
4.
Mayor Leonard.
4.
10 ayes.
Item number 7, please.
Consideration and approval of an ordinance on first reading requested by Mayor Leonard, amending Section 11 of the Town Code entitled Land Development Regulations to create a new green and sustainable building program.
An ordinance of the Town Council of the Town of Bay Harbor Islands, Florida, amending the Town's Code of Ordinances, amending Chapter 11 entitled Land Development Regulations, creating a new Article 5 to be entitled Sustainable Buildings Program, providing for severability, providing for codification, and providing an effective date.
All right, have a motion? I'll move it. Have a second?
I'll second it.
Great. All right, motion and a second. I'll just say that this came up last month. It was discussed that we would get, I guess, an opinion from the building official in regards to the financial impact, which was included as a memorandum. And I would just reiterate that this is great legislation that will, I mean, it's one thing about you may. Sorry. There's one thing if you may not like buildings or anything going up, but the fact of the matter is if the buildings that we build can be sustainable and green, I think that puts our town in a good position. And certainly we're not the first. This would be, I believe, the 8th municipality in the county to enact legislation dealing with LEED certified buildings. And this is a model from Pinecrest, which I must say has one of the greenest communities in the county pertaining to sustainability. So, I guess public comment, we have Victor Maya. Come on up. There we go. Mr. Maya.
Victor Maya, 1155 103rd Street. I made some comments on this proposal last meeting, and I would like to reiterate them again. I think it's fine and noble if the town wants its own buildings to meet these requirements. Just make it so, it's very easy to do in your specs. Looking at the specifics of this proposal, again, I saw the memorandum on the financial impact. It doesn't talk about staff training. It doesn't talk about resources of the building department. It also assumes that the permits are a percent of construction. It's my understanding that we have a schedule of permits, fees, and impacts. So some of those assumptions there, I think, are flawed in terms of determining the exact financial impact of what this is going to cost us. Also, the ordinance, or the proposed ordinance, specifically talks about a percent of paid permit and plan review fees as well. So those are not taken into account. Also, we're looking at a potential 30% rebate of these costs, not a 10% that was looked at in terms of the financial impact. So I think the financial impact has been flawed. I haven't been to Pinecrest. I don't know how much they have in terms of multifamily versus single homes. I don't think they have much multifamily, though, in terms of looking at an apples-to-apples type comparison. I also have a huge problem if we're going to try to reward developers for making these buildings, of the provision that says buildings that are not eligible for sustainable building certification may receive expedited permits. So if your building doesn't even qualify, that means anything at all can get an expedited permit if they just pay the money. I mean, that's not really the intent of what's going on here, and so I think that's blatantly unfair, and it's not in accordance with what your goal is in terms of having these green buildings, because there you are specifically rewarding those that are not building non-sustainable buildings, and it's right there in black and white in your code, in your proposed code. So I think that is something that is flawed as well. I also think that there's no penalty for any developer that goes for these LEED certifications and doesn't get it. And even though they receive expedited permitting, it's at the discretion of the town manager as to whether or not they can jump to the front of the line again if they just say that they want to build these buildings. So there are quite a few flaws in here. I would urge you to vote against this.
Thank you for your comments. Vincent Martino.
Good evening, Vincent Martino, 1050 93rd Street. Pardon me. I have to say that I think it is, I'll parrot what Victor said, it's a noble idea, noble cause, but there are some flaws with it. Fast-tracking any kind of permitting, I think, in any town, any community, is unwise. It just doesn't make any sense. I think there's a process, and it needs to go from A to Z. Giving a developer of a single-family home or a multi-unit building a fast track to permit is really not anything I think that this town should do based on the most recent history of the last 10 years with what we've seen going on in the town with regards to demolition permits and then also construction. Victor also mentioned the 30% give back in fees. That's also troubling as well. Why would we want to do that if there's a change between the 10% and the 30%? I honestly didn't get a chance to look thoroughly through this. I wasn't at the last meeting, so I do apologize, but I would like some further explanation on that. I think, and overall, in conclusion, overall, I really don't like the idea of amending these types of ordinances. I don't think it speaks well for our community to do that. So, but thank you for your time. I appreciate it, and I appreciate your service.
Great. Kathleen Kennedy, come on up.
Hi, Kathleen Kennedy. Nice to see some of my favorite council people on the dais. I'm at 9900 West Bay Harbor Drive, and we made a very good deal with a developer. Thank you. Jordan, what is your interest in this program? It's been bothering me from day one, and I would like to go on the record with you tonight. Why do you keep pushing this Y-Green? What is your participation? Are you talk to me.
Excuse me. Mrs. Kennedy, this is your opportunity to speak on the agenda item.
I'm asking a question.
With all due respect
To First Amendment, I'm asking a question.
Mrs. Kennedy, this has nothing to do with...
Hold
the
up,
program.
excuse me, hold the clock. Craig, you want to help me out here? Is he allowed to respond to me? My First Amendment right to ask a question from a public official?
You have a right to ask and say anything as long as it's not defamatory, but...
Is this inflammatory?
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying there's no obligation as a matter of law for any council person
Not
to
to-
respond.
So I take that as someone's going on. Okay, no problem. Thank you, Jordan. I respect most of you up on this dais. But when a council person doesn't respond to me, and when I see municipalities where a council person has worked and they're going bankrupt like Opelika, when I see people going to jail in Homestead, I'm very, very worried about my community. And I hate to say this. I respect most of you here, but this Y-Green, this insurance, personal insurance for you guys, it makes me worry. And every time I ask, and I tried to reach across the aisle to Jordan Leonard, our mayor right now, who's caused nothing but chaos in this town, disrespecting these most beautiful women here, disrespecting also Stephanie Bruder. This is not right. This is not a legacy. You're a father. You can't do this to women in this town. You can't disrespect us. And I'm asking you about this Y-Green program that I have, and thanks to Marlene, 90 pages of stuff that I couldn't afford to pay, okay, on Y-Green. And It's questionable to me why you have an interest in this, Jordan. And if you can't answer me, and this is public record, TV Land, listen, he refuses to respond to me. You have a chance to talk to me. And you know what? Let's have a conversation, Jordan.
I'm going to wait until your time's up, Mrs. Kennedy.
Excuse me, I can't hear you. Speak into the microphone, I can't hear
I'm going to
you.
wait until your time is up, and then you're going to sit down, and I'm going to tell you what I...
No, you don't tell me to sit down. I'll sit down when I want to sit
When
down,
your time is up.
Jordan. My time's not up. I got 25 seconds left. And it's about time, Jordan, that you start respecting the citizens of Bay Harbor. I'm not here to disrespect you. I'm asking here to ask questions. That's all. I'm not here to disrespect you. Thank you.
All right, now I'm gonna take a moment, which I rarely do. To be quite honest, I don't know where to begin. First of all, in regards to this item, this has nothing to do with the PACE program. The PACE program has existed in other municipalities. You know, I brought it to this town, and now it's in 8 different municipalities. Almost half the cities in this county have it, and it's a success story in many other cities. And, you know, Mrs. Kennedy, it's really interesting that you brought up my interest in green initiatives. And I'm glad you raised it, because it is important, and the public should know. You know, when I got elected, one of the things I wanted to do was to create a community that would leave a legacy for my children and future generations, since I did grow up here. And if you look at the things that I have supported and sponsored on this council, many of them have been green initiatives. On the League of Cities, I co-chair the Sustainability Committee that has been dealing with this. In fact, this legislation is as a result of my work with the League of Cities. The League of Cities did the most comprehensive report and analysis of what every municipality in the county does on every type of green initiative. And when I noticed that report, which took months and months to compile and write, and by the way, everyone in this council got a copy of, I noticed that we lacked legislation dealing with green sustainable buildings, particularly LEED certified buildings. And since Miami Beach and Pinecrest and many other cities had something on the books to provide incentives for people who build buildings that quite frankly cost significantly more money, I thought we should join. But that being said, you know, just to go down the list, I did sponsor the electrical vehicle station in the garage. I did sponsor City Bike program. I co-sponsored the Deco Bike, the Cars to Go program. You know, so I think I have a pretty good track record. But when you ask me about the PACE program, I will say for the record, I have no financial interest. I never have, and I don't intend to in the near or distant future. My only impact and my only remuneration, as you may mention, is the fact of having a community that provides a great service where people, if they so choose to participate, will benefit from having a greener community and better their property. That's being it. But I will mention this note that, Mrs. Kennedy, I respect your First Amendment rights, and you have every opportunity to speak while on any agenda item, but I will say that, please, I will not tolerate individuals, particularly yourself, you do have a record, speaking out of turn. And even though that I may not like everything you say, I mean, you even interrupted Mrs. Newhut, and I called you on it. So please, for the remainder of the meeting, I will ask you to please be polite and respect everyone here.
Very polite.
Thank you. All right, next we have William Lustig. There you go.
Okay. My name is William Lusgarten, and I live in 180 Bay Harbor Terrace. I've been a resident of Bay Harbor on and off for about 9 years. And although I don't agree with many things that are going on in the island, particularly in regards to construction, I have to applaud, seriously applaud, the initiative that you are taking in regards to the LEED building and the whole legislation that will bring in this kind of development. I have been in the business of sustainability, if you want to call it, but particularly I am a solar engineer. I do solar design, installation, all around South Florida, and I've done it in different parts of the world. Probably I have a different business, but I am an advocate. I am here to make you all understand that if we don't take this matter seriously, and in this island in particular, okay, we're putting in serious danger the future of our people, our generation, and our kids. And I know I only have 1 minute and 35 seconds left, and I will say this. Climate change is a reality, okay? And climate change has to be faced head-on, okay? Whoever here is a resident of this island and doesn't realize that you are one of the most vulnerable pieces of land in the world, let's not even say the United States of America, in the world, Miami Beach will be one. Why is it one of the first? It's not because it's a big patch of land. It's because it's very populated with a lot of resources and money invested in it. That's why it's considered probably on the top 10 cities to be vulnerable to climate change, okay? Now, the mayor of Miami Beach has seen this, and he's set up these pumping stations, okay? This has to be done in every small city in this South Florida, okay, whether the money exists or not. Number two, every city, small or big, has to have a climate change mitigation committee. It has to be established in every single city so that you can come up, every small city has to come up with a comprehensive plan on how to deal with it. Instead of wasting time and resources thinking on how you're going to overbuild the city, think about the damage that is coming, that you are not facing in regards to the generations that you will leave. Forget what you are now. What you will leave for your children will be disaster. Okay?
Thank you so much for your comments. We have Mr. Rufo, please. Please, Mrs. Kennedy.
What can I do for you?
Mr. Rufio.
Paul Rufio, 1231 95th Street, Bay Harbor. I would just like to say that I really am impressed with what this man had to say. And I think each and every one of you really have to take a look at it. The argument that, the only thing that I've heard about, for the last I don't know how long, about facing this was the talk of raising the seawalls. Well, you've forgotten. Seawalls end. Like where you have the bridge. If you butt up against the bridge with your seawall, it's not going to mean a damn thing. Because it'll come across the same problem. Miami Beach is trying to face it. They're doing as well as they can. And as this gentleman again said, we're doing nothing. Nothing. And yeah, your children are going to be the ones that are inheriting the problem if you leave. If you don't do anything, well then you can't do anything wrong, that's true. But what are you going to do the first time we have a king tide and at the same time we have a heavy rain? You know what you're going to have on Bay Harbor? A little bit of piece of it sticking up and just water all over the place.
No.
2 minutes more?
No, please.
Okay. Jordan, I disagree with you, okay? And you have the right to disagree with me. But the point being, I don't know what's going to happen. You don't know what's going to happen for sure. None of us really know. I can name scientists who are on the other side who say, no, we're not going to ever have anything like that. But you know, sometimes we have to be put in a position that if we are in a position to affect something, we have to consider what we should do immediately, not put it off until 6 other things have to be taken care of. So I'd strongly recommend that either you put together a committee of yourselves or put together a committee elsewhere that doesn't have to listen to everybody's crap, that has to be charged with the immediate job of trying to find out what we should do, whether it's pumping stations, whether it's totally enclosing the island, including coming up from below the bridges. I don't know what the answer is, and I doubt that any of you know the answer either. But I'd strongly suggest it. I'd strongly suggest you look at it.
Jordan, would you indulge me for 30 seconds to address
I mean, we're on the agenda, so...
Yeah, I understand. Just 30 seconds. Just this afternoon, I was in the manager's office, and we had this conversation about the water, the king tides, and I respectfully told him that I'm going to discuss it with him every month. And in the newsletter, Jordan had mentioned the injection wells, just so happened. And in addition to the injection wells, it's my understanding in Miami Beach that there is some kind of a mechanism to address the water that flows backward into the outfalls. And there's a little debate about what that's called. On Miami Beach, I believe they call it backflow prevention. Here we call it check valves. And I'm not an engineer. I've also spoken to Randy Daniel, our engineer, so I don't profess to know more than they do about that kind of thing. But I have asked just today for them to please, when they meet with public works directors from other cities, to investigate that, because my observations just recently in front of Island Place condominium, if you see the water that came up over the curb, killed the grass, you know, so it was a king tide. That's not normal, but, and this is a long-term project, so I'm not going to go into any more. And also about the committee, we have a disaster preparedness committee that has not met in years. But that committee, that would be the committee in this town charged with that. It's not environmental, it's disaster.
I'm sorry, please, sir, please. You had your time.
Wouldn't the environmental committee...
Environmental impact, I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
You know, on item number 7, if you look at the first part of the ordinance,
Yes.
where it's double spaced, if you go on the back where it says page 2, when was the last time we had an LPA meeting?
About a year and a half, 2 years ago.
Okay, so why does this ordinance say that whereas a public hearing was held before the LPA of the town to review the proposed notifications of the town's land development regulations?
That's just standard language that already was left in there.
Yeah, but it's, you know, it's false and it's material. So, you know, that's one thing, and, you know, I'd like to...
Just remember we copied this from another municipality, so that's probably left over.
Right, and, you know, and I think it's clear you've got the economic impact from another municipality as well, because I think there are items in here, just like Mr. Maya had said earlier, that, you know, have a far more reaching impact financially than what was presented. Okay, because there's you know, to me, what sounds like a ton of administration that has to be done on behalf of the staff. I don't think there's any accounting of that, you know, because the building department has to be responsible to ensure compliance, the building department has to coordinate at least 2 training workshops, you know, the building department has to make available fast-track development, the building department shall establish and maintain an environmental sustainability account, and then, you know, and then I briefly looked at the budget impact worksheet, and it really didn't tell me, you know, what our total revenues were for our town, you know, what a 30% reduction in certain permits were. You know, I think, you know, I agree with Mr. Lustgarten. It's a great idea. But I think if we're to opine upon this legislatively, that we need more information as far as the budget.
I have one building official, because just so you know, I didn't come up with the financial.
I know, let me add one thing, because Isaac is 100% right, but I want to add one thing, because this was my biggest red flag on this, and when Dale comes up, we're going to ask him this, but, we talk about most of the impact here, talks about $800 here, $600 there. This requires us to build in that method. And as soon as you do that, I want to know what our costs are going to be. We've talked in the future about whether we move town hall, whether we do this, we do that. I mean, $800 is not going to cover anywhere close to what we're going to incur if we have to follow it. I love the concept. I love the concept. I love the intent, but it's requiring us to build there, and that's not in anywhere in, I don't know if we want to do it now, or ask Dale to come up.
Like to have Dale come up.
One more comment.
Wait a minute.
Wait, you
It
can
says,
opt out.
It says you
we
can
can
opt
opt
out.
out.
No.
The town can opt out.
No. It has,
Yes, it can.
no, it's the private construction projects can.
No,
Where do you have
the town can opt out. It's in the back, I think.
Just before,
C2 also has us as that we will be.
No, there's a,
I know everybody's been talking about the financial impact. When I was talking to Dale about
It
this,
says, it talks about it doesn't give an option out. It specifically says it's voluntary for private, but it does not say it's for public.
and where are you?
C2 in the applicability section, page 4.
Okay.
So there's an argument to be made that it's required for us to do it. Then you've got a conflict in the
So why don't we add, we need
Just-
to
can I-
add into it
This
then
is-
that the town or, public facilities can opt out too.
to answer the financial impact, when you
No, it
build,
says it's expected. It doesn't say you have
For
to.
all new building construction
expected.
and owned by the town.
I expected is legally you're going to have a problem there. My point is, I understand. I think we're all on the same page. I think the fact remains, I think we're all on the same page, that we all believe, there's a significant problem here with climate change. I think we're definitely right in the crosshairs. We have a major issue. I just think we have to have the wording right, and I think we have to have the actual financial impact in front of us when we make our decision.
Well, let's bring up Dale.
just as Dale's coming up, when we spoke about it, each time you go to a higher level of LEEDs, I say LEEDs, there's not just LEEDs, there's the other types of certifications.
Why are we even going on with the discussion? Craig, the fact that we published an ordinance, and presented it to the public that says something that's patently false. We didn't have an LPA meeting regarding this ordinance. Why are we even going further? We need to postpone this until we have an LPA meeting, and that's it.
You don't have to have an LPA meeting.
You don't have to, and the whereas clauses are only historical, they're not part of the actual ordinance, but it's only first reading.
We can remove it.
So you can, for second reading, make any as long as you don't change the title, you can pretty much make any changes you want.
Okay. Dale, so you're in the hot seat. Everybody's asking about the financial support to this, so please answer questions.
Well, after reading the ordinance and it talks about the seminars and things I have to do, I'm going to have to hire some staff, because I'm one guy.
Yeah,
And all of my other inspectors are contract inspectors. They're part-time people that we hire from other cities. So we don't really have the support. I have 3 people in my department, 2 clerks and myself. So that's another issue to go with. I did speak to the building official in Pinecrest who administers this program, and he said in 5 years they've had the ordinance, they've had 3 takers. Three different people. One of them was an architect who was doing a lot of experimental stuff for his own use, like water heaters in the railings of his building and things of that nature, things that he was experimenting with. But what I surmise is the cost of qualifying for LEEDs is not very attractive because it's so expensive for the payback. It would take so long to pay back the initial investment that a lot of builders wouldn't be too interested in doing that. I know Miami-Dade has passed an initiative that all of their municipal buildings in Miami-Dade have to be green buildings, and of course they're not dealing with private money,
Right.
So that's another part.
Well,
I think it's a noble
question is-
cause, but I just don't think it's very practical at this point in time.
What do you mean it's not practical unless you provide an incentive, in other words?
Yeah.
Okay, that's, I just...
But a $900 incentive, that we figured on, permit rebates and things of that nature is not going to really, make too much, attract too many people to do it.
I'd add that, as far as administration, if you only have 3 projects in 5 years, I don't know that administrating 3 takers would be overwhelming. And I don't know how many you would have here, but...
I mean, you're the building official, you're knowledgeable about lead survey buildings, is your job, so, I mean, you'd be the one that would be reviewing this.
Yeah.
So,
Well, now, bear in mind that these certifying agencies are independent agencies. You have to get on board with the architects and the engineers, and they do all the design and certifying and inspecting of those factors. So the developer pays for those services, and I'm assuming that all they would do is bring us a certificate and say, well, I've got LEED certification, and at that time we would, provide the incentive of whatever, a rebate or some incentive.
How many individuals would you say work in the Pinecrest Building Department?
Oh, gosh, I don't know, a lot more than we have. It's a pretty good-sized department.
Mayor, I'm sorry, I had asked Mr. Miller about something because it was bugging me. One of the things that he had mentioned to me before is that we cannot opt out of some of these regulations because it's set by statute. Municipalities and counties have to comply with minimum standards for green LEED certification. You can add more, you can't not opt out, it's already a requirement.
So in other words, if we
And
pass this,
also,
we can
you,
No,
you-
you're saying the state
It's
already
already a
requires
requirement.
certain things to be, you have to do anyway, so...
If you're
Also,
building
you-
a new
Right.
building, you would have to comply with it.
Also, you may or may not be aware that the Florida Building Code has come out with an energy code, which is a minimum for insulation and, water heater and flushing of toilets and things of that nature. So there is a very high threshold that the builders have to meet, no matter what. And any of these LEEDs things would be over and above that, so.
Okay. I think,
Excuse me, I'd like to say something too. And on this fast tracking, I don't know how you could control someone coming in and say, okay, I'm going to build a LEED building and I want it fast tracked, and here you fast track the project, and meanwhile all of a sudden they don't complete it. Okay, so they don't get their certificate, and they don't, but meanwhile you've just fast tracked their project.
Well, I think in the ordinance, they're 125% of the permit fee. Isn't there
Yeah, they're still
something in
paying
there?
for it.
Well,
that
that's
they have to
if
pay?
you're not going to do green, you have to pay, if you pay 125%, you don't even have to do green.
no, but you don't,
They'll fast track it.
you don't, it's
And I
a
mean, that's,
rebate.
you
It's
know,
a
what are we
rebate.
fast tracking?
No, but it's a rebate. You don't get...
No.
It's a
There's
rebate.
the rebate, which you get at the end
Right.
after you've built your building. But
Right.
in the meantime, you come in and you say, here, I'm going to do LEED, fast track my project.
All right.
So you're fast tracking their project, and all of a sudden they decide they're not going to do LEED, they're not going to get their certification, and meanwhile, you just fast track their project. And they don't care about whatever the little rebate they're going to get, which isn't going to be little, they're going to get big rebate. So that's a problem that I have.
Well, all right, thank you. All right, any other comments? I think,
A quick one, I'd like to say that I support the idea of it, and I think it's, I'll use the word noble to go along with everyone else. I'll second that emotion. And also, whether or not we opt out, right above the applicability standards where it talks about whether the town has to do it or not, it goes into, a couple paragraphs on leadership and the town demonstrating leadership. So it's kind of hard to talk about all that and then to say we're going to opt out of leadership. So I think it is, it was very well intended. It needs to be reworked a lot.
Agreed.
well, I don't think the whereas clauses, we can take out the whereas clauses, but it's not substantial to the actual ordinance, so...
I think we need to think about what we really want to do, and like that gentleman was here, if he does solar, let's give incentives to the... Just like the gentleman said, I wouldn't mind giving, do some kind of program where you give it to the citizens to put in solar and to put in, this just isn't it. That's all. I'm all for sustainability. All for it.
Well, this is actually what sustainability is, but, all right, Isaac, did you want to take that warehouse clause out? Or, I mean, we can take out the warehouse clause, right?
I mean, I don't have the same opinion as our town attorney, even though I'm not an attorney.
Yeah.
But I think it's a significant, that's an incredibly significant whereas, and to just, say, okay, we're going to ignore that, pull it out, vote on first reading, I think is, flies in the face of, transparency and propriety.
I'll bring it back in January, and we'll put it back on first reading, so, and I'll have a conversation with the manager.
I mean, if we need to have an LPA meeting, let's call an LPA meeting and talk about this more in depth.
We'll need an LPA meeting, so we'll bring it back in January.
Are you withdrawing your motion?
Yeah, I'm gonna withdraw.
Thank you.
Sure. All right. Number 8, please.
Discussion and possible action regarding the sidewalk expansion for the Shepherd Broad Causeway Intercoastal Waterway Bridge and the Indian Creek Bridge. You have a recommendation from staff, and I want to say that over the years that I've been here, every once in a while it comes up that it would be nice to widen the sidewalks on both those bridges to make it easier for pedestrians to walk across and cross over them. I have met with our Hardesty in Hanover in the past, but to get to the heart of it, so really it's just not, seems like me talking. They asked Kimley Horn to give me a proposal to give me a plan and what it would take to widen the bridge, the ICW and the Indian Creek Bridge. Their proposal to give me a possible plan, and it's not definite they can even do it, you saw is about $48,000. I thought it was high, but the amount of work that has to go into doing that kind of a plan is pretty extensive, as you can see by their report. I spoke to Hardesty, who's currently working on our bridge right now. He's familiar with our bridge. I can tell you, since we started our bridge project, we've added almost $1 million worth of change orders, because as we start digging in and taking away, there's a lot more delamination of concrete, and there's a lot more work that has to be done to make that bridge passable. There's no doubt when you read their cost estimate, what it would go into doing that work, it's significant. Their recommendation to me was they loved the work, but they couldn't even guarantee the prices that they gave me. They said, listen, it would cost around $8 million. However, once you start nailing into the way the bridge, especially the ICW, is built, the roadway, deck, and the sidewalk is all one piece. If you start to take that away, there's no guarantee when you go into the deck that there might be more problems. You might be opening up a can of worms that now you wind up replacing the bridge, which I don't think. They said that could happen, and they have a couple of spots that they pointed out to us already on the walkway that we're addressing now on a cost, or what they call it, the time and materials basis, where under where you walk, there's been some delamination that with all the work that's going on and the shaking of the bridge, some of it's come off, so we're repairing it. So this is where we are. I'll be happy to explore it further, but at this time, it would be my, recommendation to kind of go with their recommendation, not spend $50,000 in here that we can't do it anyway, and wait till we replace the bridge. And, the ICW, the amount of work we're doing on it, there's nothing to say. I know it's been said a few times from different council members, we should be good for a couple of years. I can tell you that the minute we finish the bridge project as it is right now, we'll be back, doing more spot repairs on the roadway, underneath and above. So it's a 60-year-old bridge. It's not getting younger, so we just have to keep maintaining it to get our use out of it. And it's a lot cheaper doing that than building a $150 million bridge right at this point.
How many more days till construction's over?
About 280. There you go. Now, listen, we had a contract time of 585 days, but we have added, we've added considerable amount of work. We have replaced almost half of the beams that carry the roadway. And that's a slow, very deliberate process where they actually have to put in install lifts or support bracing, lift the bridge off the beam, and then jack out all the dead concrete, and then re-pour.
So 200 and how much?
About 280 days.
280 days? Yeah, because I
I
got
mean,
scared when I saw that they put new improved barriers now, the traffic diversion barriers. That's when
we ordered those, and this goes back to when we were under the threat of a hurricane, and I did not like the fact that the barrels would be vulnerable out there. I thought there would be something that could get blown away. These do much better. And I was afraid that, traffic, pulling everything off the bridge, which would eventually happen, I wouldn't want to risk anybody going over the bridge, so I wanted some kind of way to have traffic, diverted.
I'm sure the Ken Concourse residents really appreciated that.
Yeah, well, the good thing is they are movable. They're glued down, epoxy, but it's such a way that you can remove them.
All right. I recommend we take steps, recommendation.
All right. Well, we have a public comment. Mr. Maya, we have a few comments.
Victor Maya, 1155 103rd Street. At my first council meeting over 2.5 years ago, almost 2.5 years ago, I got up here and I told you guys how unsafe walking over that bridge was. It was a really scary experience for me, and I almost didn't want to walk back once I made it across. This memo that came in, unfortunately to me, is almost like this MO, that the town has, when it deals with issues that it doesn't want to deal with. Let's put together this memo that says it's going to cost, $5 million to widen the sidewalk on the bridge, and people say that's too much money, and let's move on, and good luck. Well, you know what? That's not good enough anymore. I have some serious concerns. Item number 1 on this agenda, on your consent agenda, was a resolution supporting a new statute for the state protecting LGBT individuals. And within your resolution, you talk about how this town is proud of its non-discrimination policies and procedures, and how forward and progressive thinking it is. Our disabled residents or other disabled residents cannot go across that bridge right now. The sidewalks are too narrow. And it's not just that bridge, there are other bridges as well that you prevent scooters and motorized wheelchairs from going over on those bridges. And I believe that once you undertook, all of these renovations or repairs or whatever you want to call them, you may have incurred an obligation at that point in time to bring the bridge up to Disability Act standards. And I would respectfully request that our town attorney, if they've looked into this issue, if they can let us know about it. Otherwise, I personally feel compelled about reaching out to organizations and going to the Department of Justice.
Thank you, Mr. Maya, for your comments. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Wait.
All right. No, let's finish public comment. Let's finish public comment, and we'll get to it.
That's all right, I'll finish it.
Mr. Martino, please. You're up. Mr. Maya, please.
You want to toss me out?
No, I want to have Mr. Martino speak. Vincent, please.
Vincent Martino, 1050 93rd Street. I agree with several of Victor Maya's points. I think it was 1980 that President Bush pushed through the Disabilities Act. I think I heard that recently or read it somewhere. So it's 36 years in the making. The bridges aren't safe for certain people to walk. Now, I'm not an engineer, obviously. There might be some ways where we can obtain monies from state and or federal governments. I don't know, because they're not within the regulations. I'm not really sure, but is that something that has been looked into? I don't know if it has, Ron. Maybe you probably... Yeah.
I can share with you, and many people on the council can. It took us 2 years to secure $1 million from the state to help us redo the bridge.
Okay,
And it
so-
was a knockdown, drag-out fight to get that million
From the state?
from the state.
Okay. All right. $1 million, it's a lot of money, but it doesn't sound like enough money for what we need. What about federal funds? It's a federal law. It's not a state law.
We applied to federal.
Okay.
Federally, and
Nothing?
no, there was
Okay.
a Tiger Grants that specifically targeted small municipalities for, in my opinion, this type of work, and we just did not get qualified, or weren't. There were other places that were more qualified.
Okay, and earlier, some people spoke about our lobbyists, or maybe state senators, or some other forms of government, or some kind of officials that we could possibly pursue that. I think that's something that we should exhaust and just run it as max as possible. And now back to the design, and this might be totally, not rational, or not rational, but not possible, but instead of having walkways on both sides of the bridge, possibly expand one side that might cut down on the cost. In other words, have a pedestrian-friendly one side back and forth on the bridge, as opposed to having two smaller sides. I don't know, I just thought of the idea when we were sitting there. I was talking to Victor about it. Again, I'm not an engineer, obviously, don't know if that's feasible or not, but that might be something that we could look into. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Martino. Next, we have Mrs. Kennedy. You're up.
Oh, I have a magic word. Ron Watson just said, and Isaac, you're a CPA man, and you've got two lawyers up here, and you've got smart women, of course. Change order. That is a dangerous word, and I'll tell you why. Because when I recertified my building, the word change order cost us so much money. And had I known, we fought lawyers for that change order number, and that's when you're going to get sucked in. So when I heard that word change order, it's going to cost us, the taxpayers, monies. So I need you to question him, question over here, and find out the explanation for what a change order is. Because guess what, guys? You can make a deal, and if they find a little something, and somebody needs to make a little money, change order, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. So if I was you, I would start asking the city manager who mentioned the change order, which caught my eye. I would ask the wise Craig the meaning of the change order, because it can cost us a lot of money. Thank you. Now you can stop the clock. I need an answer on the change order.
All right, Mr. Conster.
Oh, I didn't get an answer. I'm not finished. Excuse me, I'm allowed. Again, Craig, am I allowed to have an answer? I hate to put my wise attorney on this, Jordan. You've got to answer my question.
No, Mrs. Kennedy, we don't have to answer your question politely.
Excuse me, hold on a second.
No, excuse me.
Craig?
No, excuse me. Mrs. Kennedy, please sit down. You've been rude, you've been obnoxious.
I'm rude?
Yes, and your
How
time
am
is up.
I rude? I'm asking a question.
Please sit down.
I'm asking a question.
asking you very
You
nicely.
attorneys up there, what do you have to say?
Chief, please.
Bob? Josh? Do I have an attorney?
Kathleen, I can talk to you later on June 1st after the meeting.
Well, excuse me a second, what did you say, Ron?
So I'd be happy to speak to you after the meeting about change orders.
No, please don't put your hands on me. Don't put your hands on me. What did you say,
I
Ron?
will be happy to speak to you after the meeting about change orders.
Change orders?
Any
Okay.
change order that comes in front of this council, or that gets approved, is fully explained why we need a change order, and it's approved at this level. We don't approve change orders just because somebody, as you said, wants more money.
Well, Ron, my question was that it can cost us a lot of money on the word change orders, because I've had experience recertifying my building. That is my question. I don't know how rude that is.
Mrs. Kennedy, with all due respect, the agenda item has
Excuse me?
nothing to do with change orders, and everyone knows this. That's not the agenda item. With all due respect, please sit down.
It is, he brought it up, Mr. Mayor.
Please sit down.
Okay?
That's your...
Thank you for being such a bully.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Don't put your hands on me.
Okay,
All right.
can I ask Ron a question?
Go ahead.
Thank you. Well, I guess I'll ask the attorney the question then.
Ridiculous.
When you, I know in a park, when you start reconstructing a park, you have to bring it up to ADA requirement. So my question is, when you have a bridge...
Good question.
Do you need to bring it up to...
It has to go over a certain percentage, and we did not come near that percentage to do that. It's almost like, similar to when you tear down a building, or you're rebuilding your home, if you leave a certain percentage up, you don't have to do certain things. 50%.
Or if you materially alter, but
Right.
we're not, it's still the same usage.
Right.
So it's not-
So basically, if we had fixed, I just want to get this clear, because if we have fixed 50% of it, then we would be
If we were
required...
spending over 70 million, yeah, we would have to do it.
So it's a financial, it's not
It's a
percentage
financial.
of the construction...
Right.
Wait,
It's like you do work in your house, private house.
Right.
50%. Bring up the code.
Well, but he said 70 million versus what percentage of the bridge has to be changed? I'm just trying to understand.
35,000.
That's,
Right,
no, that's
So
what
he's saying, I think Ron said earlier that if you were going to build a new bridge, it would cost $150 million. So he's saying
I'm saying,
50% of that, is that what you're saying?
yes, we did not come near the percent that you would need to be required to do it.
And
You know, if you wanted to do it, that's a different story, but...
Yeah, but that's
And even if we did a smaller amount, if we did some significant change to the design of the bridge, then we would be required to do it, even if it isn't 50% of the money.
Right, that's what I
We haven't
wanted,
done that,
I'm
though.
trying to...
I think the part that alarms me was that he said when we replace the bridge. How far from, yeah.
You caught that, huh?
No, listen,
150 million, got you on
our bridge, the work we're doing now makes our bridge a safe bridge to go over, and a lot of the work that I say, I'm sorry that
For how long?
I had to come, well,
We hope
I'm happy
about 30 years.
to say that, well, it's not pleasant to find out that you have to replace those beams. We wouldn't have known it until we started the work.
Right.
So I hate spending the money, at least you'll be safe going over the bridge.
Yeah, no, that's right.
It might have lasted, it could last another 20 years, I don't know, but this work had to be done, and we're doing it. But that doesn't stop us from continuously maintaining everything that we have.
We have one more comment, Mr. Coster.
Jeff Coster. This would make great fodder for a TV reality show.
It's well on its way there.
Anyway, my concern about expanding the bridge and the sidewalks and adding the extra concrete, it may add a stress factor and weight that is unforeseen, that may cause problems with the bridge. There is a possibility that you could cantilever a walkway on the side of the bridge, which would be lighter, and do it out of metal. That's all.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd like to say a few things about this, but, does anyone else have any comments about number 8?
Yes, I do.
Morano?
Surprise, surprise. If there is a park on the causeway, would that make a difference in trying to get funds from the state or the federal part, that maybe that because it is so dangerous for citizens to cross the bridge, that maybe we could put in for help with making bringing the sidewalks up to code?
I'm not sure. That I don't know.
Can I say something, Doris? I'm sorry, this answer to me directed to you. Because I agree with you very strongly the need for altering this, but at the same time, because one of the things when I first got on the council, one of the first things I went after was I started meeting with Ron, asking, what can we do about the bridge? We're on a walkway. I've asked him a bunch of times, and I know you did the same when you got on. The problem obviously here is cost. When we talk about, though, trying to get state funds or federal funds, it's a dogfight. I mean, just to give you an idea, I mean, even this last year, this current year, we fought, went back and forth lobbying, and we finally got a little bit of money, which was a miracle by itself, just to see it vetoed. So the idea, and as much as we would love and we realize the need for the state or the federal government to step in and help us in this, the chance of us getting funds, if we couldn't get, $200,000 or just $170,000 to seal water manhole covers, I mean, the idea that they're going to give us millions of dollars.
No, I don't expect
walkway,
them
it's
to give us
just- it's not-
millions of dollars. What I'm talking about is maybe we can get some here, maybe we can get some there, maybe we can get some...
We always try. We always, I'm sure, you'll see it. We always do every effort. It's not as if we leave any money on the table. I mean, there's every effort made to get assistance. I'm just telling you, it's not as easy as just applying.
But this is what I'm saying. you need to do it. You need to do it. You need to stop talking about it and do it. Whatever it is, you find money, $2 million for your community center, $3 million here we have in TDRs, you have a shoreline review thing, you grab the money from all over and let's do it. You have to borrow some. I mean, it's an important part of our town.
Councilmember,
We're a walkable town.
you wanna,
the only thing I was going to say is, anybody who crosses the bridge understands that it would be great to have wider sidewalks. I mean, every time I see somebody riding a bike or walking or whatever, it would be a good idea to widen the sidewalks. But as Ron said, you have a bare bones proposal here for $8 million, which probably means it would be significantly more than that. And what really concerned me was the comment about once you get into this, it may affect the structural integrity of the bridge and requires, did you say that, Ron, something to that effect, that where you may end up having to replace the bridge?
Yeah.
In the worst case scenario, and I don't think that's something
If you look
that the
at
town could face at this point.
I mean, a lot of the work would require us to remove the work that we just put in. We'd have to relight the bridge. We'd have to move, even if you just did one side, you have to move either the generator station or the operator, the bridge tender's office. The bridge itself, the way it was designed, the Basco span is very balanced. That would be now another thing, would be taking out, something we just spent almost $700,000 replacing the sidewalks.
But this is what I'm talking about. We're doing these things to the bridge, we're putting in all this lighting, why do it to the older bridge? I mean, we should be making all these improvements. We should be doing the lighting, we should be doing the widening, we should be doing, making it
Because
part of our island.
Because the cost of replacing that bridge is...
I'm not saying replacing.
I understand that, but you're talking about, or suggesting that we do a lot of other work to improve the bridge, but there are structural issues involved where you could actually threaten the integrity of the bridge if you do certain work which becomes invasive into the deck and the span. And as Ron was saying, putting the bridge off balance. I mean, I'm not an engineer either, but, the recommendation of, the engineers, I did run into Gary Rattay at the Miami-Dade League meeting. He sort of just gave me an overview of very, 2 minutes, basically saying this is something you all would probably want to do, way far in the future. Because he said his recommendations really don't even get into the structural integrity of the bridge. You'd have to spend tens of thousands of dollars, if not more, even to get that far and make a determination as to whether the recommendations they've made or the proposals that they've given are even feasible, because of the issue of whether the bridge could withstand that type of renovation. So I'm not, for one, as much as I would like to see wider sidewalks, and I think we all want to see that, I'm very concerned about the integrity of the bridge.
Yeah, you want?
Yeah, let's do comments. First of all, I thought it was thinking outside the box to hear Mr. Coster mention metal. Maybe a lighter weight, aluminum, graded like sometimes you see, although I think that would be problematic as well. But did we only look at concrete material? Did we, they also evaluated alternative materials?
Yeah, because anything you're going to do is going to ultimately has to be... Anything that you do ultimately has to be affixed to the span. And that's where right now our inspectional engineer from Hardesty, he said, he's really concerned, he goes, about the sidewalk. He goes, quite frankly, there's more repair there than, we originally thought. So.
Okay, a second thought, I'm sorry. Second thought would be, have we considered reaching out to Surfside, Bal Harbor, North Miami, to see if this is something, since they're also traversing?
We're talking about so much money. This is not, I agree with you, the need. I'm just saying, we're talking about so much money.
I know they'd like to take the bridge from us.
You have the responsibility of, you have this bridge.
Hold on. We don't have the money for it. You're talking about potentially...
But a long-term plan.
Long-term, absolutely. We could redo it, absolutely.
Yeah, but... I just have to say that Surfside, in all the years that I've been involved in this town, has been very tight with their funds.
I just have to say it, but I bet you've never asked them for that.
It's a great suggestion, but experience-wise...
Imagine kids going to FIU, right? You know, you have kids in college, right?
Maybe
but
North Miami.
Bringing commerce, you know, having this big walkable community connecting. Really, I've ridden my bike across at my own risk, and I often go to FIU. You know, you can go all the way back to the campus, and once you clear our bridge, the most treacherous part, you know, you can cut through other safer places.
Yeah, I have a few
Also, there's no ADA on this, too.
That's the whole conversation.
That's what I'm saying. This is the problem.
You know,
I understand the need, I'm just saying, we just,
guys, one conversation. All right, you know, I want to say a few comments. You know, it's you know, I don't think there's anyone on this dais that doesn't agree that if we had the opportunity, we would love to have the bridge be ADA compliant. I know when I got on the council, it was actually one of the first things I mentioned to Ron also. You know, and to be honest, I don't know if I've mentioned this before, but I've actually been injured on the bridge. I actually, you know, rode my bike on the bridge, and I have, you know, I literally have the scars to prove it because somebody ran me off the road. So, you know, and listen, I agree. But you know what? Excuse me, but you want to know something? You know, there's what you may want, and then there's the fiduciary responsibility as being the leaders in this community. And when the manager and other engineers tell you that you have the potential that we may be stuck building a new bridge that would bankrupt this town because we don't have the funds to do that, that scares me. And to be honest, you know, I know that you're new to the council, and that's fine, but you don't know how many years many people on this council have gone up to Tallahassee and lobbied to get that $1 million. And let me tell you something, this state is not very giving when it comes to giving money, particularly in democratic areas. And I have to tell you, that $1 million that came, hold on one second, can we have one conversation, please? You know, that $1 million had to go through leadership, that had to go through the chairman of the day delegation. The governor himself had to sign off on it. And let me tell you, I know for a fact that the governor did speak to the delegation chair and asked specifically about the town of Bay Harbor Islands, because the governor has veto power. The governor has vetoed monies for Miami Beach and other areas that were just as worthy, but when it came to our $1 million appropriation, it was actually a line item in the state budget. And most people, believe it or not, ask me about how Little Bay Harbor Islands, the 6,000 residents, got $1 million in a Republican-controlled legislature and a Republican governor where it didn't get vetoed. And the answer is, we made a compelling argument for how we do things here. But you cannot make that same argument for potentially redoing the bridge when it doesn't need to be done. And to be honest, if we want to do it, we have to have a long-term plan rather than saying, hey, Ron, let's go work on this, and then one day we're stuck and saying, we have to fix it now, and we don't have the funds. You know, 20 to 30 years is a respectable amount of time to plan on budgeting $100 million. You know, I don't know if you know, but I mean, the whole budget is what, about $15 million for the bridge right now? What's the total? It's about $15 million, and we had to scrape to make that happen. How long is it going to take us to raise $100 million? And by the way, every single year that
The more it's going to cost.
No, let me tell you something. You know, getting the Tiger Grant, we applied so many times for that Tiger Grant, and we've not gotten it. And it's not due to us not applying, that's not due to us not lobbying our members of Congress. But, you know, $100 million, if we get stuck with that, we're done. You know, and you can't go to the state of Florida and say, I'm sorry, but I need $95 million because we only got 5 left. It doesn't work that way. It took us 2 years just to get $1 million. I'm in favor of a long-term approach, but I'm not in favor of putting us in a position where we could...
$8 million, not $100 million. He's saying $8 million.
When our manager says there's a possibility that we could end up with needing a new bridge, and by the way, $8 million is not $8 million that we have anyway.
Can I just so I didn't... If the $8 million, that was their ballpark estimate, they said if there, as anything, as you do renovations in your home or anything, nothing, you know, when you open something up, it could be worse than you expected.
I understand.
I'm almost guaranteeing, or the engineer almost guaranteed, that when you start taking away that sidewalk, which is really one piece of concrete that's tied directly to the roadway. So when you pull that off and go to attach something else, there's nothing that says you're overstressing that. and which means, now you're replacing a section of roadway. I mean, that's not something that's done lightly, and that was really his concern, because you really don't know
Just
what's
like
going to
the
happen.
community center now. It's costing us more because we've waited than if we had done it a year ago.
This is,
You know
this
what I'm
is
saying? The
very
more
different.
you put it off,
No, this
the
is
more
very
it's going to
different.
cost.
This is very different, Dorothy.
Oh,
Because it's not, okay, let me just make sure everybody's clear. It's not necessarily just 8 million. The problem is, as soon as you start that, there's the possibility, what he's saying is there's a possibility that we are going to find things we're going to have to completely redo the entire bridge, which goes to $150 million. There was never a chance where the community center, where we went in there, that we were going to have to spend 10 times as much to redo the entire parking garage because of it. That just doesn't exist. In this instance, it's a problem that we have with the bridge itself. We just can't do that. I would love to do it. We just don't have the money if the worst-case scenario happens. That would just crush the town.
We've discussed it, so let's move on to item number 9, please.
Can I ask just one question?
No, we're done, Mr. Costa. Item number 9, please.
Item 9, consideration
Oh, right.
Consideration and approval of a cost adjustment for the Bay Harbor Islands Community Center in the amount of $675,923, I think, and 51 cents. But I wrote this memo to let you know, and I have the design engineer and the builder. When we estimated this, it was a while ago. The Florida Building Code did change, which did, as you've heard Dale just mention, it changed. It's more rigorous, and some of the structures that are involved have to withstand either wind loads or certain other regulations. That aside, that was about half of what I put in here, roughly. The other thing was the council all had a chance to meet with Stantec and make some comments and some recommendations, which, you know that I would not be afraid to say I think that's not a good idea or anything like that. Your comments were good and add value to this project, and they're also reflected in here, and weren't part of the original estimate of the job. So there is that adjustment to the cost. They can tell you that, and I don't have to point out that construction is very up in this area of the country, and as you but as time, the longer you wait to get into building, the more the cost will, go up. They've done some, I think Ed Lamas will talk about some of the issues with the terrazzo, which is beneficial to us, which will help, maybe reduce that down a little bit, but all in all, the price is to cover the building and to adjust for some of the recommendations you made. As far as the furniture, it was never budgeted in there because it was hard to know what the community center would look like and what the needs would be. They have given us a plan. This is industrial type furniture. We thought around 150,000, and they came in at 143. I'm asking for a little bit more only for the fact that there might be even some other adjustments, add-ons for chairs, tables, and such, or just equipment that we might use for different things in the community center. And lastly was the IT portion of this, which it is covered for the most part, but when you start laying out for TVs and certain other things, you don't know where it's going to go, and I'd rather not have to come back all the time and say, oh, listen, I need 10,000 more because I want to add 4 televisions and a recording monitor, a couple more security cameras. That's the basis of it, and that's it. It's, Ed, if you want to come up and maybe you can explain it a little better than I just did, but...
Before he does, let me just ask you something, because when we met, I had a couple questions for you, and one of the things I wanted to also talk about, and I know is, we were talking about what to use that multi-purpose room in the front for or anything else like that, because I think that's somewhat of wasted space or inside. And I had asked you if you were going to take a look and see about setting up, ask for bids for potentially try and bring in, a well-known coffee house or something along those lines, some kind of coffee house or snack bar or something.
We did not, we have space for that, but the multi-purpose room, we threw some stuff in there, like some tables and chairs. Most likely, we can make that anything we want. We can make that a small exercise room. It can be a spots for when parents have come in and they want to drop their kids off. And
We've got rooms like that all over, but my issue is, what I want to see is, we're talking about, you're talking about, obviously the major words tonight are change order and everything else, and we're trying to see, I had inquired and I was pushing to obviously have us potentially have some kind of snack bar or coffee bar in there, because I think people are going to be sitting in there, they're going to be coming over. We want this to be an area where people congregate, and people are not, I think it looks, quite honestly, it looks just very, very low end if all we have is in there is a vending machine or no food, no coffee, no nothing. So my question was, this is potentially also a little revenue stream to help pay for the community center going on if we end up having a small coffee house or something in that corner, or anywhere else inside.
I thought we were going to go with the cart.
Well,
have somebody,
you were going to look into both, but I think I would see, and I think talk to the places, whether it be, and I think we mentioned maybe approaching either, whether it be Alaska or Panther or anything else, to see if they want to put a small thing in there, that being the reason for revenue, B, to provide for, a little bit of service for the residents, and at the same time, I just don't want to have come back later on and say, well, we have another change order because now we have to add electrical or water or anything else to accommodate.
The lobby is meant to be a very open place, and to build I didn't think we wanted to build something permanent into the lobby.
Right.
With the cart, we can move it around, and I know we have a coffee, Unico. I would give them the first shot at, do you want to
That's fine.
come in and, provide that, and I think that would be the way to go. And if it really takes off and it's successful, and if we have to design at that time, hey, we got to throw in something, because all the electric and everything is going to be fed from the top. It's all fed from the roof down, so we have the ability to do drops in electrical if that's it. I don't think we'd ever want to put running water and
I
things
just don't
like
want
that.
to change order later on where we...
But I'm not
put in a
even
public
sure
order.
that we all want to have a coffee shop in our community center. I don't think we've ever discussed having a coffee shop. I think it's not something, personally, that I'm looking for. We have a business district. I mean, if they want a cup of coffee, they have a couple places up on the business district that they can go to have coffee. And hopefully, if the parents are waiting for whoever, they'll walk King Concourse, and that will help us with our business district. I don't think we want to pull away from our business district. There's about 4 different places that people get coffee and snacks, and I just don't think that community center, as small as it is, and also with the amount of kids, and you know as well as I do, the amount of schmutz and drippings and everything else, we're going, I just don't think that's where I would want to have a snack bar or a coffee
That's talking about the multi-purpose room on the outside instead of inside.
Did you say?
Yeah, it would.
I'm done.
Yeah, I agree with most of what you just said, and as a teenager who grew up going to the youth center, and they had a snack bar, and then there was a very specific area where you had to consume those products, and of course that is a 2-story, huge facility. And then I totally agree that we're so close to the 95th Street mall there, the plaza, and you have Unico, and, there's the Mini Mart and all that stuff, but if we do have refreshments there, we have to be very specific. They can't be consumed. I mean, when do you go to a library and see people with, even beverages? I mean, even in here, we don't allow people to eat, but, that it can be a very messy proposition, and I don't remember really discussing that. But if we did, it would have to be limited. It definitely could not be in the library section, and especially when you're dealing with the kids, it's even worse. I had trouble. I ran a training facility on Miami Beach for 6 years with adults, and it was a mess. We had to change the carpet after just a couple of years because it became such a messy problem. People, they don't mean to, but you drop something, or, you talk with your hands, and there goes a coffee.
Well, we didn't discuss it because we can't. So that's, when we discussed it obviously individually with the town manager, that's a different purpose. But my point being this, I'm not talking about putting in a major food area. What I'm saying is on the outside of the multi-purpose room, because we've got tables and everything outside where we're trying to tell people in the courtyard to sit outside. I don't think anybody is going to say, I'm going to sit out there, but I'm going to walk over a block or two to get coffee and come back. They're just not going to do it. If we want them to, I don't think you're going to find that. Especially in the summer months when we've got people outside underneath, hopefully under some fans. The fact is, if you have something there right there on the outside, something small that draws people over there for small snacks or small coffee or something along those lines, I think it creates a sense of community. I think you find people that when they want to congregate there, they're going to go there, and they're going to order something right there rather than walk a block away. I don't think they're going to walk over to King Concourse to get a cup of coffee just to come back.
1 second. I think you could put a coffee shop or whatever you want to call it, right where the lot, I mean, we don't need two entrances into the building there. I mean, you could put an entrance another place, but I mean, right here where it has lobby and that little entrance, close that off, put a shop in there, but you can only have the coffee outside, not inside the community
Why not just a
center? It would
kiosk
be
that stays outside, like a hot dog cart?
Well, I don't think about what's a kiosk outside. I don't think you want something outside. First of all, you're going to have people standing out in the sun most of the days. It's not fun. That's not fair to the worker, but what we had talked about...
They can order it in the lobby and then take it outside.
But what we had talked about, Ron and I had talked about, is if we're not doing the multi-purpose, doing, like I said, a coffee cart inside as soon as you go in the lobby. We're not talking about people coming in and eating inside and just, walking around with food. But the concept here is that if we're trying to create a sense of community, we're trying to create a scenario where people come and congregate, where they sit down and have a cup of coffee, they meet at the community center. And if you don't offer that, I'm telling you, you're going to get people complaining later on that there was not anything there for them to eat or drink. I think you're going to find a need for it there.
I think you can
I'm
keep it
sorry,
outside.
Mrs. Kennedy, I've asked you so many times. My tolerance for how you've acted during this meeting...
I'm talking to Josh.
No, you're not talking. Chief, please, I'm done with you. Mrs. Kennedy, you are. I'm done. Chief, I'm done.
I'm not leaving.
Well, good luck with that. We're going to stop the meeting for you.
It's more effort. It's not that bad, come on. Just ignore it.
Chief, I got it.
This is like 17 years of that. Please, go on. We're going to continue with the meeting.
Only he just doesn't like me.
No, Mrs. Kennedy, your actions are just deplorable. And I'm sorry, but it's wrong. You should know better.
I'm leaving my first hand because I'm coming back. You're not going to shut me up. I have a right to my First Amendment rights, bully.
Mrs. Kennedy, your First Amendment rights are to speak on an agenda item, not to interrupt the
I've been
council
here for
meeting.
years and nobody has ever shut me up.
Mrs. Kennedy?
Stop. I think
you know
you're a
what?
nerve. Come on. I never had a DUI in this town. You did. I have a right to talk.
Mrs. Kennedy? We're going to
Let's
continue.
not kill anybody here.
We're here, fighting the argument. All right, Josh, your food talk.
I don't think there's much more to add. I think we had a
Good.
conversation.
We
But-
can.
Yeah.
There you go.
I mentioned coffee somehow. No, but obviously that was my question back to you, Ron, because I want to make sure, my key here is whether or not we do it or don't, I just don't want to come back and later on find an additional cost to add a water line.
It wouldn't be a...
But we can still, yeah, that's what I'm saying, so it's not going to be
Right, we don't decide it now, I just didn't want to, cost, we're looking at the additional thing, I don't want to get a bill later on for something else. That was the only point, exactly. That was exactly the thing, that was where the start.
To prevent, exactly, okay. Maybe what you should do is pertaining to food, maybe that should be a separate item that we discuss,
That's fine.
So maybe we should bring that back in January so we can discuss it, because I think that kind of is its own separate,
I don't disagree.
No,
Is there a
that's
place to prepare refreshments, like a catering
Yeah, in the
bar in
back.
the back, right?
In the back.
Yeah, it was, and it's a warming kitchen, it's not a...
It's warming, there's no...
Yeah, it's not-
brought in to keep warm and then serve for events,
Yeah,
town events or whatever. But the card, I think, would be something really, to explore, and if it really does well, we can expand it.
Excuse me.
Okay.
On that note.
On that note, I'd like to hear from the gentleman who's here.
Yeah, we have some public comments. Yeah, Mr. Lamas?
Before we get to the public
Yeah, that's fine, that's fine.
As you know, Ed Lamas is a designer.
Welcome back. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council. My name is Eddie Lamas, to South Bayshore Drive. I'm here back, very happy to let you know that we got the approvals from the county. That took a couple of months, and I did it myself. I was your permit expediter because I would not take no for an answer, and we're trying to mitigate that and also out of Durham. That takes the longest, so it's now back at the town. to have the permit very soon, because the most treacherous part was in the county. So that's the good news. We're very excited about the project, and like Ron was saying, to give you an overview, you have a special place. You have not too much land, you have a community center. Part of the cost, once you take the furniture, and by the way, the furniture budget was never in there, is from Knoll, and Knoll has a standing contract with government, so you get much better prices. And when we try to look at the furniture, is something that was timeless, something that was comfortable, and something that is easy to store.
And we need to do it now, right? Because you need lead time.
Yes, you need lead time to do that. And the main thing is that you're going to have kids that are going to be helping you set up. So you want something that is stackable and something that you can take to a placement cart. You just can't be at random. So that's 175 from that total. The other 100,000 was a contingency. Again, it's renovation. That garage really wasn't designed for a community center. We don't know through code issues and building department what's going to be encountered, so it's a safety net to have there. So then you get to the upgrade that we recommended, which is the terrazzo floor. Between the terrazzo floor and the exterior canopy, that's about 200,000.
Can I talk about the canopy?
Sure.
Why does it have, I mean, we did one at the school. It was a lot less, and it was canvas, and I know I talked to Ron, but I went back to the school to look again.
Right.
Why does, if a hurricane came, it's easy just to, remove the canvas. It's a lot less expensive than...
Stephanie, can you
Oh,
pull the mic
sorry.
over?
Than putting in that metal...
No, we certainly can do that. You still have to anchor the posts, and that has to be steady, and that takes, believe it or not, that was the main issue because of the water that you have underneath. It's almost like anchoring a building. So it's still the post, but we can certainly look at that. I have looked at that, and we can explore, and it's just removing the canvas canopy. But we wanted to match the building. It has a metal canopy. And that's the way we went to. So between the terrazzo upgrade, and again, this is a type of facility that with terrazzo is something that is a lot less maintenance.
Right.
Is very durable. If you're familiar with the Aventura Community Center, that was built 12 years ago.
It looks
I
great.
designed that. Yeah,
And it looks
like
amazing, yeah.
brand new. Yeah, it does. Also, the finish is about the paint inside is very washable. Aventura has that, and again, if you go there, it looks like they built it yesterday. And it's just that this is going to be so much use that you need that. So then it leaves $200,000 from that total amount. That is because of the building code and because labor keeps going up and material.
And how many years durable is that furniture? Like, in other words, how many years of use? How often, normal?
No.
I mean, in my house, we change the furniture.
Well, it's very, I can tell you that it's very durable, and we have the specs. It's also known, the Dade County system, the library system, we also did it because if the library, once it's in, it's compatible with the furnishing. And I've designed dorms for the University of Miami. So I can tell you that has to be very good. Okay? That has to be extremely, there's no drywall.
It's a 5-year,
No.
That's good enough.
Okay.
That has a spec, so
Stephanie, just so you know, when we met with Ed and Noel, one of the questions was, what about like 5 years from now if we have to add chairs or add a desk or a table? And he said the design that they were working with was 10 years old, and it's like, you can get those replacements to match up, so if a chair did get damaged, it's replaceable.
Yeah, no, it's timeless and it's very comfortable and it's very storable. So it's something that, because you have not too much storage room, that is something that we strive for. So the bottom line is that that was the upgrade for the community center on those two items.
I understand that's one of the top-end furniture. I mean, it's almost, we could probably get furniture for half that price.
Well, you're getting a very good price. They have a discount. They have a contract with the
Are
government.
these the prices we're talking about, though?
Yes, those are the prices.
Well, in speaking with someone, it doesn't seem that you know, it seems to be a great deal, and I'm not saying it for you.
Right.
I'm just saying I showed it to someone who said this is high-end furniture, very high price. You know, I mean, it's almost half of what we should actually be paying for furniture. I can't find it now.
Again-
I'm sorry, I'm discombobulated now here.
No, it's no furniture, and again, the furnishing, we just help select. Okay, the furniture, you can get it from anywhere, it's just at that community center, the whole space has to be integrated with the furniture. And it's used by government all the time because of the durability. And you get what you pay for. I'm just telling you, for a place like municipal center, project for you, for the town, it's the best one that I can recommend.
Granted. Did everyone else say what they felt about this, or no?
We're still
I don't know what I
listening to-
missed.
We're still listening to the presentation.
Yeah, we're listening to
We
it.
haven't had public comment yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, and constantly I take all my projects very emotional. I'm into it. Like I told you, I did the permitting. I didn't want anybody else to do it. I had to ask Ron and J.C. several times for checks because they never give you a total until it's approved. So I have to keep going back. And at the same time, in talking to the Terrazzo supplier, they think that this is such a nice, high-profile project for them that they're also giving us a break on the price and an upgrade on the way you join it together, which is their fusion, so that it looks without any
That's not...
thoughts at all.
No, I think it's gonna look really beautiful.
And we were able to talk them into that. And any color accent that we had, that it's always an upgrade, they're charging the same price. It's very high profile, and they think it's worth their involvement.
All right.
So I've done a scratch and everybody to try to get it done.
And I will say he was the fastest person through the fire department I've ever seen.
Right, and you said that, that the little caveat in order for that discount would be that we submit to have pictures of it in publications or their advertising material?
I think that's what
Right.
they would like to use this as a, as
Right.
a
Yeah.
showcase.
Yes.
Yeah, just for your information.
Yes, and I can forward you an email from them
Yeah, I don't-
stating the same thing.
I have no objection to that, I think it's fine.
Right.
Yeah.
What do you think is fine? I'm sorry.
That they would like to use images of the final product and perhaps their advertising materials for the terrazzo in exchange for the lower price.
Yeah, that sounds good for me. That's
We
great.
can be proud then.
Absolutely,
Yes, of course.
absolutely. No, thank you so much. Any other comment? We have public comments, so...
Oh, okay.
So, Victor Maya, please. Let's see. He stepped out, okay. We'll go to, Jeff Coster. There you go, sir.
Jeff Coster, 1135, 103rd Street. Did I understand that you're going to be using terrazzo floors?
Yes.
Okay. In my apartment, I had terrazzo floors, and anytime I got any water on it and I took a step, I went flying. And I wonder if it's dangerous. I got rid of it because of slip and fall factor to it. And so that's that comment. Maybe a small Starbucks, that would be nice.
So,
Well, is it the concrete kind of terrazzo, or is it the resin kind that has like a little bit of a texture to it? It's resin.
the way you fit it.
Yeah, it's totally different than what we have in our older buildings.
Yeah. Mr. Maya, you're up.
Victor Maya, 1155 103rd Street, and I apologize if you covered this while I was outside. I was a little bit concerned when I read the memo regarding the change in the Florida construction law, that was the impetus behind these some of the cost increases. And our manager said that it was about half. I was trying to figure out, from the information, how much money we were talking about, that is directly because we are now have to comply with provisions of the law that we had thought before that we had grandfathered out of compliance. So I was a little bit concerned about that, so I want to make sure, that we understand what this, if it's because of delay, or what the reason why we are no longer grandfathered into what we thought we were going to save. And how come we hadn't heard before at least I hadn't, maybe you guys had, that, hey, we need to move on this, otherwise, what we thought we were grandfathered in, we're not grandfathered in anymore, or we won't be, and it might cost us X amount of dollars. So this is the first time, I at least saw that, and I could be wrong, or missed that, but it's that gap in terms of, we were grandfathered, now we're no longer grandfathered, now it's going to cost us another couple of $100,000. Well, at what point, did that happen? And maybe we should have been given, or you guys should have been given the opportunity at the very beginning of this project to say, hey, maybe we would want to comply with the new Florida construction law at first, if it's safer and better and all that, and build that into the budget originally, as opposed to going for the grandfather thing. So I don't know if that sort of dichotomy with the grandfather, new law and all that was something that was discussed, but, and how much money that is. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Meyer, for your comments. All right, does anyone have any other questions, any comments?
Yeah, I do actually. I wanted to add one thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
When I was at the Best Practices Conference, I was approached by a company called Look Outdoor Media, who they have these, I'll submit this into the record, but they actually put up these signs. You see them a lot.
It's like on a trash bin outside.
It's like a pretty sign that's powered by solar power, and it has like a little trash bin. And I was just thinking, they're putting them up in municipalities. I think they're up in like 20-something municipalities already. They're putting them up at their, at their own expense. Did they approach you as well?
No, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
Yeah, and, and I think, just after seeing that image, I'm thinking that, we might, want to have a sign like this, maybe the month activities for the center, and then it'll be underwritten by a private company.
That's a sign or not?
It's a sign. I'll pass it.
I think is it in North Miami or North Miami Beach where they have them lining this came over? I think it's awful. I think it's just an eyesore.
It's just.
But if you're putting one by the community center as a sign with information,
right?
About activities, that's different. But I don't,
Right, we have complete, for this, we have complete discretion as to what the content of the sign.
I would just hate to see them.
This is not advertising. Right, I'm just getting in front of the.
You don't want to attract attention to the trash.
No, it's not advertising if we don't want it to be advertising.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no.
No, it's very interesting. So you could put, whatever, whatever you want. Yeah, there's one like for the dog park or whatever.
When you're ready.
That was very cool. All right, pass it down, and then I give it to Marlene so she can.
Yeah, absolutely. Any other comments? Kelly?
Well, first, I think the results are really beautiful. And that being said, all of our input coming in, we knew that when we selected the higher-end materials, like the terrazzo over the vinyl, that there was a possibility that we could go over budget. I'm a little disappointed and shocked that it's that much, because, we've been telling everyone in the public it's $1.5 million, and we got $500,000 from the state, and, however we got here, we're here. So earlier we had a conversation about how much TDR money that we have in hand, that although it's in the general reserves, we've been talking about using that money for something for public good like this. So, I'm inclined to support the increases with the higher-end materials that should last longer. But I have to say, that it's a little disappointing about, that disconnect with the building code issues, because I would have thought we could see that coming and, work with that, but,
To answer that easily, the community center has been a project that's been on the boards for quite a while, and it's taken a lot of different turns. I mean, we can go back to where it was going to be 4,000 feet and 8,000 feet, and, there was a lot of twists and turns on where we are today.
And we still don't know about the library, right?
And the library, without getting into that, I'm still waiting for a proposal from Miami-Dade. We're also in contact with a private vendor that would supply services. We don't have anything back from him. We had a nice conversation with him. He's working out of Maryland, and so I don't have that. But we really designed the space with the idea: if it's a library, great. If it's not, it still functions well for us. This design, as you said, as we've talked about, really came together in the last year. The presentations were made probably 18 months ago. There was still a lot of work that had to be done. Then everybody came together and made their comments, and as I said before, they were all good comments. The covered walkway, I thought, was one of the best, or the most obvious that we could do. And, I know it wasn't cheap, but to say, what you just said, I don't like spending more money than I have to, but that's something that anywhere in South Florida, if you're taking your kids to some activity in there, if it's a class, whatever, even if it's a senior that wants to get in for anything, and it's a typical Florida, 10-minute, downfall, you want to be able to get in there and not be discouraged from going in there. So I thought that was a very good, choice and things to do. But everybody had something positive to put into it. $200,000, and, I know there seems to be a disconnect, but you cannot rush what you can rush. I mean, I would have loved to have been started a year ago, but we wouldn't have what we have now, which is something everybody's more or less come together as 7 people and put in front of you to say, this is what we want, this is what, and, we had the Parks and Rec Committee weigh in at one point, what they wanted, what they'd like to see. Getting through the permitting process obviously takes some time. The building code is gonna change. I mean, I don't think if I came to you and said, hey, listen, we're gonna lose $200,000 if we don't do this right away, you probably would have laughed at me and said, well, I'd rather get it right than worry about the building code changing. And, at the end of the day, we will have a safer building because the glass won't be blown out in a 185-mile windstorm. It's probably the worst, least of our problems at that time, if that ever to happen. Yeah. So, $200,000 is not, was at your, suggestion, and the other part is kind of out of control. Joe, if you want to come up and maybe just comment a little bit on that, or Dale?
I want to make one correction. Parks and Recreation never saw this, and never had any input on this. This is when Mr. Mayor was the chair. We never had a meeting, we never saw it until afterwards, where I finally saw it way after it. So Parks and Rec never saw this. I'm disappointed with the design, but I just want to clarify that.
Okay. Joe, just tell us.
Joe Brown, RDC, the builder. The building code is only a portion of the increase. Some of them were new.
I'm sorry, I apologize, but we didn't get your name on the record.
Joe Cerrone, RDC, the builder of the facility.
Thank you.
So a portion of it was some scope change, some added items. The building code change was not all of it. Some of it was, quite honestly, the increase in costs that we're incurring over the past year. So I just wanted to clarify that as well.
I think also a lot of us tried to pick apart the big-ticket items to see if we could lower the cost, and it was a shame. For example, this beautiful lighted glazing that I think this feature that's in the front that you see on the screen right now is, just under $90,000. And I don't know, J.C., did you ever get pictures existing? Just to show the difference, I think it's worth the money that it unifies the space and, the one before the other one more there. So this is the before, and then the glass unified, especially at night. I think it's worth it. I think we have the funds for it.
Any other comments?
Yes.
Councilman Morano.
I'm going to be honest. Like I said, I never had any input on the design or anything else on this, but now that it keeps the price, and I hate to be a Debbie Downer, because believe me, I was on Parks and Recreation, and I would love to have a community center, and I would love it to be a thriving community center and have everything in it. But the price is getting ridiculous for a build-out. And, and I don't think we're finished here at, 2 million, 2.2 million, whatever this is here. I think you're going to end up at 2.5 probably by the time everything is said and done. And I'm disappointed that it's in a parking garage. The 2.5 million, I think we could have had our own little building in the lot next to the parking garage for that kind of money. I did have a question as far as that glazing. Does that cause more heat or less heat? It's fine that was my only question. Anyway, I would have liked to have seen a different location for that kind of money. I think it's way, way over what it's worth, and even the furniture is double of what we could actually buy it for, and who knows, in 3 years, 4 years, we may want to move it. We may not want it in the parking garage, and we may find a spot where you're going to do administration, and, where maybe, we don't want to put a lot of money into this, because maybe you're going to walk away and it's going to be a storefront. But that's my thoughts.
So,
Thank you.
are you in favor of it or not? I didn't understand.
I am no longer in favor of this location.
Okay. Isaac, anything else? No. Anyone else? All right, hearing none. Poll vote, please.
Councilmember Yaffe.
4.
Councilmember Sauer.
4.
Councilmember Reed. 4. Councilmember Morano.
Opposed.
Councilmember Fuller.
4.
Vice Mayor Bruder.
4.
Mayor Leonard.
4.
Passes 6-1.
All right. Thank you very much, everyone. I think that is, we're going to have our community center. That's really incredible. Thank you so much, gentlemen. Now you got to go back to work now.
I was starting to worry about that grand opening.
Can I, as a suggestion, can you guys look at 10, 11, and 12 and see if they could possibly go down to the bottom so that we could get those older carryover items?
I'm in favor of that.
At least number 11.
No problem. So why don't we start with your item?
Number 14.
Number 14.
Vincent Lever?
14.
Well,
13.
Oh, I'm sorry, 13.
you want number 13?
Vincent Lever.
Okay, we can do number 13.
Yeah.
Okay, item 13.
No, why don't we just go to the ones that were not...
We'll do 13. We'll do your item.
14, there's Vincent. Why don't we do
13.
one with Vincent?
You like 13? Okay. Additional discussion and direction requested by the manager regarding the concept presented by Councilmember Morano at our last month's meeting of a cohesive concept of the causeway, which includes an entrance feature, past park features, a design median, and I just was really kind of unclear where we were going with that, and I'd be happy to go and do whatever the council selects. So I just thought we'd talk about it a little more. Whereas, could you give me a little clearer direction?
Yeah, I hate to, if I may, I hate to just see this council waste any more time on this item. The Department of Transportation will never let us put any type of park or pedestrian feature on that causeway, period. And I think it's a tremendous waste of time, and I think we should just defer that item or just vote it down without a lot of pain and suffering and a waste of time.
I think you're wrong that they may put it out there, and we don't have to have the bridges widened in order to have the park out there. Again, we have the shuttle service, or just the way that people are going out there now.
Oh, that's it? That's it. Did you have a comment? I'm sorry. Okay. All right. Go ahead.
But is that the only thing we're talking about, Isaac?
I thought we were talking about the signs.
So we're talking about it just like
I mean, the signs, we should have a presentation of a professional sign company, not, literally cutting and pasting of the Eden Rock Hotel sign. I mean, this is.
Did you see what the professionals came up with?
Yeah, whatever. If we can't find this,
You have a better option, then bring it in. So let's direct Ron to look.
So that,
I think we did that. I think the issue is that we did that, and we did do that, and we had people, we had kind of a contest, and we had people apply, and there were applicants that put in their, I guess, their designs. I mean, the town submitted one.
3 submissions.
We have, so, not counting hours or not counting hours? What?
Not counting.
So we have 4...
No. 3, that's it. I'm sorry.
3 other than
You're
this.
talking about...
No, the one the town paid for a design.
Right, so then you have 2 more.
So we have 3, and then plus Councilman Morano, so there's 4 design opportunities. So that's what we got. So, I mean, to be honest, we've been waiting for this for almost 2 years.
We're talking about the outside.
So-
One of the cars I know
So-
about this.
And just so you know, do you remember, I did go to University of Miami, I went to
Yeah, we-
FIU.
FIU.
I did
But I remember at the last meeting, and I think Josh, that we had asked you to please, find out what would be the cost, to add this to the four. I mean, we're going to pick one of them, correct? We are going to.
Right, we're talking about
Are you talking about like an informational sign?
Right, guys, let's make sure we're talking about the right sign.
Look, if we're talking about the informational sign, we have no place for an informational sign unless it's huge in the middle of the causeway. Once you go over the bridge, we have no space for an informational sign that will be legible by cars that are driving 30 miles an hour. Period. There's no place east of the Intercoastal Bridge that there's place to put a sign with graphics on it, like, for instance, in Miami Shores. There is absolutely no place. Our median is what, like 4 feet wide?
I'm surprised you think the
Not
cars
in
are
the
only going
median.
30 miles an hour.
You know that new sign that says, to me it just says, slow down, slow down, slow down, that's all it says to me. But, honestly, there's absolutely no place. I mean, 1177 Kane Concourse is not going to want a sign in front of their place, I can guarantee you. The median is too small to house a sign, like an informational sign like that. So unless it's a huge sign in the middle of the causeway, we have no place to
Not
put
in the
an
middle of the
informational sign.
causeway. It's not in the middle of the road. You can put one right where you have the benches, right on the corner of East Bay Harbor Drive and Kane Concourse. You have benches in front of Asian Bay there, or in front of Singer. You can put the sign right there. You've got about 6 feet. That would be plenty for an informational sign which they can see from all directions.
On Kane Concourse?
Right by the hotel, that corner opposite that hotel, there's a light pole, and behind that, there's all hedges and benches, and it takes up a lot of room. You've got like 8 feet by 8 feet there that, take it out. Put your informational sign.
What if we get a piece of cardboard, the size we're thinking of, and we go to these locations and we hold it up so that we all know what we're talking about, just so we don't go back and forth?
That's an easy solution, just so we have something visual. But that's, so when we come back in, I guess, I think we come back in January. No, I know we saw the earlier ones, but the ones you had before, it's a computer graphic that you throw in there. I mean, it might not be the worst idea, just simply exactly what Kelly's saying, just have someone stand out there with a paper or something that's about the equivalent of the size in a few different locations, and we get a picture.
If it has the text on it, that'll even be more helpful, so you can kind of see.
Yeah, and it takes an hour.
Jason, I guess you have your marching
You have a project.
That's fine, that's fine.
I'll help you, Jason.
But no, it's not a big deal. I'm gonna get a hold of a couple.
JC, I'll hold one side.
We're trying to
Get a hold of U-Haul.
And
You're going to get a hold of U-Haul and get the cardboard.
walking across the bridge.
Don't worry, it's refundable, the receipt.
So let's do that. Let's find out first where we can put it, and then once we can find out where we can put it, then we can pick the design, and let's hopefully have a cohesive idea running through this whole
All right.
town.
All right, so next, item number 14. We're going to take this down order.
Discussion requested by Councilmember Reed regarding the noise ordinance.
This is 14, right?
Yeah, Councilman Reed.
Okay, noise, finally, after 3 meetings, here we are. Basically, this has come to rise because, in one particular building anyway, we're realizing that the air conditioning units placed on the balconies were really, in hindsight, not a good idea. It's very loud, there are some 30 or 40 of them, and they do meet the current code of the decibel limit. So Mr. Miller prepared a report, and on this report, it actually shows that our thresholds are kind of high, and I've talked to the code director, Mrs. Siegel, and we've discussed different things that we can do, including either changing it.
You put me on the spot? I don't think it's noisy, and I've told you that. I told you that, I've told you that, and anybody who asked me, we were there, we measured it, at 61. Most of the cities are at 60. The actual current code for appliances is 65. And then, even then, there's a threshold of 9 decibels until they have to be changed, if you all remember that were in the committee. So I spoke to you and I said maybe all 4 of them on the balcony may not be the best idea. You might want to look at that. But I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with the ordinance or the decibels that are assigned to it.
I would like to go forward and change the code so that we no longer allow the air conditioning units. And we talked about how with some of the newer setbacks, if they're on the side, but I think we need to identify a distance that's better.
There's already a regulation that has to be a certain number of feet away from the property line. The new buildings are going to be 15 feet as opposed to 10 on 2 lots, so they're going to have a bigger setback on the side than normal, and they can always put it on the roof.
So, for the next meeting, I would like to, if you agree, change the code and have something on first reading, so it'll be January. And then as far as the decibel readings go, I still would like to lower that. But before I make a motion on that, I think we have some people here that might have an opinion.
Marlene, can I ask you, where did you measure the decibels from? Was that the one from the street, or you got into an apartment?
No, we got into two apartments. Actually, Ron went with the code officer for one of them.
And even with, it was 94 degrees, so all the ACs were running at the building, I know that. It never exceeded, the decibel level, and there was a crane operating down the block. So it was a noisy day, but it never really went over. When I stepped back into the apartment, they didn't have hurricane windows, but everything dropped down into the 40s, the decibel readings, but...
Because I see even here in Bell Harbor, they're down in 54 and 57, as if, it's during the day, it should, it's 65 is high.
I think if you're going to go below 60, it would probably be in our best interest to have at least somebody who has professional sound experience, because we're just going on our own, what we hear in a meter. If you want to everything below 60, it's 3-4 people standing together having a conversation will exceed 60 decibels.
But in other words, putting 4 air conditioners together and all up in one tower behind someone's, it's just a bad idea anywhere. You should just not do that again.
Like, if you had 4 people standing on the balcony, which is, forget the ACs, if you had 4 people standing on the balcony talking, it would hit 60 also.
I guess, but Ron, if I could say, those 4 people probably won't be out there for 12 hours.
Right.
So, they'll stop talking at some point. So I think there's a difference, and I don't think they belong in the balconies either.
I
think they should go back up on the roof.
No issue with that.
No, I think there's a difference.
All right, we have public comment. Victor Maya, come on down.
Victor Maya, 1155 103rd Street, and I was inclined to go up to 60 decibels, during my comments, but I figured we've been through enough already this evening to do that. One thing that I am concerned about is, why do we have to spin these memos? I'm reading, this memo that Mr. Miller prepared, and it says, MMPA recently researched other local municipal codes and found that the town's maximum decibel allowances are very similar to the surrounding municipalities' current limitations for those municipalities with specific maximum decibel allowances listed. And then he lists them. Very similar. They exceed in every single example on this sheet of paper and on the next sheet. Our decibel levels are higher than every single one. How is that very similar? I just don't understand why we have to spin stuff like that in these memos when it is clear as day just looking at the charts. 54 and 60, that's a big difference. Figure out the percentage, how much higher they are in our town vis-a-vis the other towns. I just don't understand why that's the case. So looking at, if you want to be very similar to all of the other municipalities around here, let's drop them down to 60 at all hours and move on. It's very simple. Thank you.
Thank you, Victor.
Mr. Martino?
I did get a little excited there.
There's about 80 decibels.
Vincent Martino, 1050 93rd Street. Numbers, well, let's just say numbers are subjective, okay? We have a decibel level of 55 or 60, whatever it is. 2 years ago, I guess it was 3 years ago, I came in front of the P&Z and also in front of the town council. Many of you on the council members were had been elected at that time, and I argued that having 42 air conditioners running 24/7 would not be conducive for a neighbor, i.e. the Stewart House Condo Association, East Building South residents, which are 12 units, would not be a conducive environment for anyone to want to live in. But the plans were approved. I was told by the architect that, the sound would be mitigated, there would be buffers, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Well, it's not the case. The sound is not mitigated. This is what you hear, and I'm just going to give you a few seconds of it, from a balcony. From the Stewart House balcony, facing east, the H line and the I line. I happen to be in an H line. So this is what you hear on the balcony, 24/7. The sound is also audible in the units. The second bedroom, the living room closest to the south windows. It's even audible in our master bedroom. Not as loud, but it is. So I beg of you to, Okay. I beg of you to reconsider any structure that is going to have a rooftop pool. If those are approved, fine. I believe if they're on the water and the air conditioners are facing our friends in Surfside, or in, possibly on the other side of the island. Again, it could be a little loud as well, for them as well. But again, having rooftop pools is great. It's a great amenity for the unit, but it doesn't work for the interior part of the island. And I think it all goes back to we're putting 90% capacity in a lot, and it's just not working. It didn't work in this building, and I'll have one last thing to say. There's a sister building that's supposed to be constructed probably maybe in a couple of years, I don't know. 1045, 1055, I'm not sure.
They can't build that building anymore. That
Pardon?
building can't be
Good
built.
news.
Okay, all right.
Project's expired.
built. Okay, all right. But anyway, so we suffer from it, and I would hope that other residents in the island don't have to put up with what we have to put up. I've lost value in my home. It's not a very pleasant, experience environment anymore. Okay, thank you.
George, I have a question.
Yeah, go
Vincent,
ahead. Yeah.
You were objecting to the pools because you think that you can't put the air conditioning units on the roof if the pool is on the roof, or you just object to rooftop pools in general?
No.
Be clear on that.
I don't care about rooftop pools. I mean, that's fine. But again, I think in structures that are on the water, where the air conditioning units are going to face, for instance, like Surfside, you have enough, obviously there's enough space there. Now, if they're on the water and they're facing the West Island, that's probably, 80 feet? I don't know, whatever the distance is from, whatever it is. That might work, but the distance between our East Building, Stewart House, and the Bay Harbor Condo Club is, 20 feet? It's something around there, and it just doesn't work. So if anybody wants to come up, and you're invited. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mrs. Newhart.
Frances Newhart. First of all, I'd like to know who puts these agendas together, because I've been waiting for this. I think Councilwoman Reed This is her third time putting it on the agenda. It's always at the end, and you never have enough time for her. So this isn't the only one that she's done. And the problem I'm having with this is, okay, this is the noise ordinance. 3 times with that. She had the, what was it, the impact fee, the impact of the TDRs. Okay, she came up with the density with a limit on it. How long did it take her to get that passed? Then she has the one, never came to council as an ordinance or anything, was how far you can dig into the ground, with the garages. So, I feel that this one is, I mean, maybe she doesn't feel it, but I do, that, I come to these meetings, and these things I would like to hear, and half the time I'm not hearing them. And the other problem is, these ordinances, if and when they do get passed, you're taking off next month. January, if we're lucky, might have a first reading. So when do these come into effect? After all the planning and zoning board building permits maybe get approved, so that they don't even have to abide by these rules? As far as the air conditions, we used to have on the residential, we used to have buffering of our air conditions. At one time, we couldn't even put them on our side setbacks. We had to put them in the front of the house. Now, they're everywhere. Everywhere, you name it. No, and the setbacks are so small now. There are no 10 feet there, I'm sorry. And there's no buffering because you can't fit a tree or you can't fit nothing is there except this air condition. And it just so happens to be on people's, in our district, Josh, that are right on our windows, these air conditions and the noise into our bedrooms, and this is unbearable. And I really feel sorry for these other people in these multi-family homes because they have no control at all. That Lunatique was a good example of how one building can destroy the whole side of one island of noise. Nobody even wanted to walk over there at the time. So I really think that this ordinance should be passed, and yes, I think you should let, once in a while, give her a break and let her go at the beginning and have her ordinances approved. Thank you.
All right, that's public comment. Does any other member of the council want to talk on the item? I have a few comments, but...
I have a couple questions. How is it on the West Island? I haven't received any complaints, but if that is a good question. Well, as long as we're looking at this, should we look at future construction and, at the very least, where the placement of the air conditioners are, maybe, farther away from windows?
I can tell you P&Z always considers the location, and that's part of their review, where the ACs are placed. So, just to let you know.
And how would it affect existing approved multifamily homes? I know there have been a few that have the same design, and they haven't broken ground yet. But I guess, they're grandfathered in, so they would still be able to do it?
I don't think you have any with ACs on the side.
I can't think of any right now. Most of them have been put on the roof.
What about Beau Rivage? I know they were on the balconies, but maybe towards the front of the building.
Yeah, it was only on the 3rd floor, I believe.
Oh, okay. And then, as far as the building that was mentioned behind the Stewart House, are there any remedies that can be taken now? Or if we did lower the decibel level and they were not compliant any longer?
I'm not going to play town attorney, but I don't think you can go retroactively.
No, you can't go retroactive.
I thought with Notique that they sort of fell out.
No, Notique was a little different. They actually got louder, and we talked to them, and they did buffer them, and they did change some of the exhaust fans, and they bought new ones, so they installed it, and it didn't
really do anything because when you walk by there, it still sounds as loud as...
Well, this is like the new improved one?
Right.
New and improved one.
Well, maybe if there is something out there, in the industry that can buffer them, maybe at least the town could nicely ask them to do the right thing and try to buffer them, or to let them know that it wasn't the way they described it. But it seems like, it's a shame to say, existing balcony owners, forget it. No more for you.
I'm not averse at this very moment to making our noise ordinance
a little bit more restrictive.
I'm going to be...
Yeah, I think you're going to find a lot of support on that.
Yeah.
Okay, so then we could bring it back for first reading in January.
I think we need to consult, I think, like the manager said before, and he's not paying attention now because he's talking to somebody.
Right.
But
Consultant.
I think we need to have a consultant because sound, I mean, maybe it's about the duration of the sound as opposed to, or maybe it's because there's 4 units as
Right.
opposed to
Yeah,
1 unit.
let me just say, just for the record, just hold on a second. Let me just say
Well,
that,
you know, for-
you know, for the last couple months, you know, when this first happened, I guess we had a council meeting, and we got a whole bunch of emails from Stewart House, and I know that some people complained, and I certainly spoke to the manager and the clerk many times in regards to this, and, you know, the conversation was always, gee, you know, they need to get inside the apartment, and some people were not willing to actually allow the town to do the measurements. You know, every single time I got an email, I asked the same thing, you know, please let me go, you know, hear for myself what it's like. And, you know, most people never even respond back. It was kind of a little surprise, because if it's such a big issue, you would think that, you know, they would want you to comply. And I know that you know, all the only information that I'm going by is what the town clerk and the manager are telling me, which is theoretically that you know, they comply with the law. You know, it's not, it doesn't even come close to 65 decibels, or 60 at night. Now, you know, over the weekend, we get a whole bunch of emails because, you know, the Stewart House Association, you know, asked everybody in the building to you know, have the council send their concerns to the council, which is fine. But I did the same thing, asked every single person, you know, please, you know, I really want to hear what is going on, because for so many months I've been asking and not a single person. Finally today, someone in the building actually let me go hear what's going on. And they're not in the same line as Mr. Martino, they're further, they're further west, but, you know, but I actually was able to go right before the council meeting, and, you know, does it comply with the law? Absolutely. But the humming noise, and I can see where this is coming from, you know, I don't agree with what people have said, that it's this loud noise, from what I've heard. And again, I haven't heard it from every single line, I'm only hearing it from one specific line. And you know, and that individual is very nice of them to let me into their home to hear for myself. So I don't hear a loud noise, but I do hear a constant humming noise. And I think that goes into effect that if you change this code, which took us 3 years to change, to enact, and lower the decibel, it's not going to solve the problem, not just for their building, but for all future buildings. I think the real issue at hand is solving their problem, which is how do you deal with that constant noise? And the analysis that, or the analogy that the person who lives there told me is, it's like dripping water. Water is not in itself loud, but the constant drip, 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 all day, all night, is what is unbearable. So my concern is, I think that, and my recommendation is to have staff bring in somebody who's a professional to analyze what we can do to not only help them, but also make sure that this isn't something that occurs, because to be honest, this is, changing the code and changing the decibels is not going to solve this problem. You know, certainly not.
Just 2 things. One, I know I asked Dale if he'd make a comment, because we will go back to the club and ask them to see if there's a way of mitigating the noise.
To dampen it.
I think the problem there is where those units are located. It's only about 10 foot deep and about 20 foot wide, but it's concrete above, on the sides, and on the bottom. So it's all a hard surface, and I suggest maybe Ron and I could talk to people at the club and see if they could put some sound attenuating buffers on that enclosure, the ceiling and the walls, to absorb some of that sound. I know you've all been in restaurants where they just do the steel bar joists and they paint it black, and you've got concrete floors and you can't hear yourself thinking that, you know. But they can put in some sound attenuating material there, which would absorb that sound and keep it from reflecting out into the Stewart House.
Good. But,
So,
but what about what I said? Because I mean, lowering the decibel, I don't see how that's going to impact, again, that constant noise. Because if it's a constant humming and they comply with the law, how are you're not solving the problem. You know, if it's 40 decibel, you know, when they did the measurements inside the apartment, it was at 40 decibels.
Well, I think if you put the right kind of material in there, it's going to absorb that, and it won't be reflecting out into the Stewart house. So I think maybe that's what we need to look at when they put these things up, that we don't allow the hard surface. You put in some sound attenuating material there.
Well, what I'd like to do is I'd like to have Mr. Miller look at, when we come back in January on this, is look at if other municipalities or anyone else has had this issue with maybe regulating, again, that constant noise. And you know, again, I don't want to lose sight of what we're talking about, because it's easy to put a Band-Aid on this and say, you need a stricter code for the decibel reading, but it's not going to solve this problem, it's not going to solve other problems, so...
Well, that's not the only issue that Kelly was talking about. Kelly was also talking about not permitting the air conditioning condensers on balconies in the future and keeping them on the rooftop.
I'm proposing two separate ordinances, and I think we have time in the next 2 months to go ahead and put the decibels on first reading. In the meantime, get a consultant to come in. In the meantime, graciously ask the Island Club what they can do, and maybe they can even take a section of the building towards the top or someplace on a corner and actually try it out, you know, and see if that works before they go forward. But I think they're all positive moves. Thank you.
I agree. I'd like to see it on first reading, and we can always make alterations next time. I just don't want to wait another month.
Right, and let's bring in a consultant to...
Right, exactly.
I think you can go by what Mr. Miller shows, all these other cities that they have. They do have
We know something has to happen, so at least let's get them...
I'd like to set the benchmark. It reminds me of when we talked about construction hours and we looked at everyone else, you know, and we're kind of in line with one other organization, I think North Bay Village, that, you know, has no construction on the weekends.
Right.
And so I'd like to, you know, stay up there in the upper echelon.
I agree.
I'd like to lift Bay Harbor into, you know...
Let's bring it back and
All right, so we're gonna, now, did you have a comment? Oh, we already heard it, okay. All right, so we're done with 14. We're back to number 10.
Consideration and approval of a contract extension. I'm sorry. We'll go,
You wanna, Josh, you wanna do your item?
I mean, yeah, I'm going to do mine real quick, because I've been trying to get this on since September, real quick. And I've had residents approach me, and they were a little upset when we started, I guess, enforcing a little bit more the basketball hoops. These are people that want, the kids just want to be able to play out on the side, on the right of way. I think as long as we're allowing, I think we should be allowing them out there. I'd just like to have first reading next month, or actually in January at this point, just to make an alteration, allow kids to be able to play basketball. I know this is not something that really needs to prevent.
just to qualify this, the town never really was going crazy over this. This is when the hurricane was coming through, and we were asking, you know, to take them in, put them, you know, knock them over, put them on your property. And it was a little crazy, so it was getting to that point where we were just going to collect them, because we didn't want them blowing around, and thankfully we didn't get hit. But then it kind of just threw it out that, you know, they're not really supposed to be out on the...
I understand. We just allowed it for so long. I think at this point, I think
I so disagree with you. I mean, I really couldn't disagree with you more. I think this is, you know, pretty much like public land giveaway. You know, in my opinion, I think the manner in which we've been treating these, which is kind of benign neglect, it has been working for the most part, but I certainly wouldn't want to pass any legislation to encourage more of those basketball hoops in the public right-of-way. I mean, people, you know, they could take up parking spaces. You know, parking spaces are already short on the West Island. When someone has a party, you know, they're blocking people's driveways. I mean, I think this is a really, really, really bad idea. You know, I don't think we should encourage those rolling basketball hoops, you know, in the public, in the swells. I think that idea.
Can I? Thank you.
Sure, go ahead.
Thank you very much. Being from Parks and Recreation, why not put basketball courts one on the north and one on the south, so that the kids can play within that park area?
Can I answer that? Years and years ago, somebody asked me that question. Wait a minute, somebody asked me that question, and I didn't really, I had no position.
Certain hours.
No, I had no position on it at all. But I just put it on the agenda because somebody asked. This room was packed with people. who were so upset that that was even on the agenda. You remember that, Isaac?
Oh, yeah.
I said, okay, forget about it. So
But
I
they're playing in the
appreciate...
street anyway.
No,
So you're still hearing the sound of a ball.
Games and all that. This is just, I mean,
Right.
you get a couple kids that are outside. It's something, you know, we talk all the time about let the kids do something. They want to sit outside for a few minutes and shoot a few hoops. This is not something in the middle of the street. We've been allowing this for years.
But the problem comes is when I was driving around the West Island, and I saw all these basketball hoops, and some of them were not, the net was,
Oh, you can enforce that they have to look, that's not a problem to enforce that they have to look right, but it's, no, you can enforce that. You know, the first thing that we're finally enforcing is to try and tell kids they can't play ball. I mean, it's,
All right.
well, it's
it just doesn't come
basketball
across.
hoops.
Well, I'll support it on first, coming back on first reading. I mean, it really didn't bother me there were plenty of them around, but, sometimes they had them across the street from each other, and the kids would go back and forth, and, I mean, the kids are having fun, and certainly Ron is right. I mean, if there's a hurricane or a warning, they've got to be removed.
But they're in the street, too.
I do want to weigh in. I do think, with all due respect, Josh, I do think there's some potential liability issues here. And you're using town land, town-sanctioned land for a sanctioned function. I would definitely want to talk to the town's insurance agent to see whether that would be covered and what it would be. But I do think that if a car, if you're given your right of way and kids are playing basketball, a good personal injury lawyer is going to sue the town as well as the driver. Or if a kid runs out into the street for a ball, it makes me nervous. We've never done it before, and I do think we at least ought to look into the liability issue.
It's not a sanctioned function. If my neighbor, rolls up one of those basketball things into my swale, that which I know that I'm not entitled to, and, we start fighting over, I want my basketball thing here, I want my wife's car to be parked there. It's going to cause disputes, because you're going to say, look, there's an ordinance that says I can put my basketball thing.
No, it's a matter of removing it from the ordinance. It's been this way for decades. People have been able, we've never had this issue. I think you're looking for a problem that isn't there. I've just had people that have come up to me and said, look, my kids have been playing basketball. They've loved it. They've been doing it for years. They go out. We have this one thing right on the edge of our driveway. Why can't they play ball now? And now it's got to be, torn down. That makes no sense. I mean,
Have
the
they
last thing
been
we want to
harassed?
do is start, kicking kids away from playing ball.
Have they been harassed? Enforced? The kids, has it been enforced?
It's been enforced. That's the problem.
They're coming around and enforcing it?
Yeah, that's the problem.
Really?
Yeah, all of a sudden now, because after the storm.
We don't harass, we enforce the code when somebody brings it up to our attention.
I'm just surprised.
That's why I was approached. Residents came up to me and said, look, I don't understand why. I've had my kid out there playing ball for, years, and all of a sudden you're telling me you can't have a basketball net. We're not, and the thing about it is, Craig, I disagree respectfully that it's not a sanctioned activity. We're just removing it from the code, saying that exactly. We're not saying specifically go out and play basketball. This is a town event. It's a very different issue.
I didn't say it was a town event, but it's town property and a town legislative approval. I'll tell you.
No, it's not approval. It's just removing it from there. That's all. It's a lack of something.
But all the kids who skateboard do all the other types of activities in the street. I mean,
Well, if I were a plaintiff's personal injury lawyer, I would sue the town as well. Whether I'd be successful or not depends. I just have a duty to raise that as an issue. We all can decide.
We have public comment, Mrs. Newhart.
First of all, I think this problem could have been resolved if we did have a community basketball courts. We don't, okay? We just heard from Councilwoman Bruder, you're taking down the school's basketball courts for construction. Does anyone consider these kids where they're going to go play basketball now? I do agree with Isaac. I live close by to where he is, and it just so happens that particular street we cannot drive down because the kids are in the street playing basketball. And we've had a lot of problems because these kids take over the streets and they're all over the place. And I wouldn't be surprised if a kid did get hit. These kids are not grown-ups. These are little kids, 8, 9 years old, playing out there. and it is dangerous, and it's not just that one Bay Harbor Terrace, it's all over.
Which is the slowest street, which is the
And
quietest
it's a
street.
slow street, and there's a million kids out
You know,
there.
if you open this up, it's, East Bay Harbor Drive and West Bay Harbor, West Broadview and East Broadview, and there's, like, the traffic moves faster and in higher volumes.
And I also agree that we should not be giving our right-of-way to anyone. It's municipal land, it's public land. You know how upset I get that right-of-way, anyone can park in front of my house, and you have workmen parking in front of our house. So what can stop a kid from across the street putting his basketball court in front of my right-of-way? I can't get rid of him. I can't get rid of him. Maybe he wants to play double basketball there. Okay, and the other thing is, I go to planning and zoning board meetings, and there was the issue, I'm sure you know, Mr. Miller, but it turned out nice, because they did put the landscaping and they bored it in, but in the beginning, it was all concrete. And thank goodness for Mr. Miller and the P&Z, they made them put the landscaping. So if somebody wants to put that instead of a driveway, but it says here that they're not going to cut down the driveways in any way, I agree. But you need basketball courts for this town.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Miller.
Well, I just have one last comment.
I've had a comment.
No, before the storm warnings, they were all over the place, and nobody complained about them. A kid played in the street, and that's one of the great things about our neighborhood is that it's a kid-friendly, family-friendly, I mean, the entire town. I'm not just talking about the West Island. And, it really wasn't a problem. It only became a problem because of the hurricane warning or the potential for a hurricane warning and the, I guess, the failure of the homeowners to react and to remove the basketball courts or lie them down. I mean, mine has always been in my driveway, and whenever there was a storm coming, we would just push it over. So it was lying down, it wouldn't blow over, and that's all we were really asking people to do, but to get them out of the street. So I think we're making more out of this than it ever was. I mean, it really wasn't a problem in the absence of a storm.
Your point about the car, a moment ago to me, was...
I think if you put it on, I think, Josh, if you put on first reading, I think that there needs to be something that says that, that one, holding the town harmless, I think, maybe look at that as far as what the attorney said, I don't think it's a big deal.
Like with a waiver? Like have them sign a waiver?
Yeah, I would like to think
Because
about
they'd be signing waivers in front of the town. The issue is, I would support putting it on the first reading, let's see where it goes. All we're doing is repealing that particular section of a prohibition, and we'll see what happens.
Right, we're just taking it off the ordinance. We're not writing saying, go ahead and play basketball.
Everybody can vote on yea or nay, whatever they want.
No, I don't mind hearing it. I just want to make sure that if we're going to go through with it, that we don't come back on first reading and Craig says, no, we went and we can't do this,
Go ahead and talk to the town's insurance agent.
Okay, that's fine. So we're going to bring on first reading for January. All right, number 10.
Consideration and approval of a contract extension VHI 128.
I'm sorry, what was that?
Aren't you going to take these last three?
Oh,
I thought that's what you were going to do.
I'm sorry.
16
I'm sorry. Absolutely. Number 16. Over your item there.
Discussion requested by Attorney Sherman on information requested by Councilmember Reed regarding possible amendments to the town code related to vacation rentals.
Go ahead, Councilmember Reed.
Hang on a second.
Yeah. Oh,
So
okay.
you're asking me about the last item?
Yeah. I don't know if we
Well,
have-
did we take a poll? It was a
We didn't-
discussion.
Right, but I think it would be appropriate, rather than go to first reading, that we should take a poll vote to see who wants to go to first reading, just to make sure that there's a majority.
Thank you for saying that.
You're welcome. You want a poll vote?
I
Okay.
just said that, no, it was like, it went right over.
You don't, you want a poll vote on 15? Yeah, whether we should go to first reading.
Go ahead.
I mean, Madam Clerk? I would vote, on...
Okay.
You can ask me first. Salver. There we go.
Okay, Councilman Severson, no. Councilman Yaffe?
Yes.
Councilmember Reed?
I'm going to support it going to first reading, but I really am concerned about what the town attorney said. I'm looking forward to hearing what the insurance company says, and,
Okay. Councilmember Morano?
Opposed.
Councilmember Fuller?
For.
Vice Mayor Buter-Left? Mayor Leonard?
I'll be in favor to hear for first reading. I'll give you, obviously, the courtesy.
Okay.
All right.
All right, so now we're on 16.
Because the hour grows late, and I think I have a way to resolve what our questions are. Everyone is advised that the law's changed, that we can regulate vacation rentals. We don't have to go do too much history on that. Mike Miller wrote a good memo. I thought I did a good job, if I could pat myself on the back. And everyone has some familiarity with what the other municipalities are doing. Some, like Fort Lauderdale, are making it like a prison, but there's all kinds of variations on a theme. I think what Mike Miller and I need to know, just to help us draft for a review and maybe on first reading in January, is the feeling of the council. First of all, do we want to do anything on the West Island where we do, Yeah, we have, I understand that. We have an ordinance on the West Island, which Mike and I are less than fully impressed with. We could do better, but it seems to work okay. So the question is, does the council, number one, want to only deal with the East Island, or do you want us to look at possibly tightening up and doing better on the West Island?
You know, I sit on the legislative committee for this issue, and I keep hearing the other cities' elected officials saying that you have to be careful that once you start dipping into that. So I think, you know, you should check with Weiss Soroto, the people we talked about, whomever, and make sure that by changing that at all, you don't lose what you have.
Okay.
Because right now at the state level, you cannot regulate duration or frequency.
Right.
And that's what you have over there. You have basically a once a year. So you might lose that if you try to open it up.
Well, that's true. So we can concentrate on the East Island. And Mike, you had some concerns. What I was thinking of is let Mike just express his concerns. If each council person who has an interest could email Mike and I what your thoughts are, I could save a lot of time. And we could put all your thoughts together into a draft ordinance. It was just a suggestion because of the lateness of the hour and the other items that have to be covered. And Mike, is there anything you want to direct the council to advise us by email? Or you can do it by phone if you want, but email would be easier.
Sure. Good evening, Mike Miller for the record. This is, one of the more popular subject matters that we, in my field, are dealing with in all the cities, and many cities are looking at this. Fort Lauderdale was mentioned. Hollywood just adopted an ordinance within the last month. One of my other client cities, Lighthouse Point, just adopted a comprehensive ordinance as well. So there's lots of subject matter out there. Some are a little complicated, like Fort Lauderdale's is. They come in and they inspect the premises, and you're issued a certificate of conformance, if you will. Hollywood decided not to do that inspection part initially, so that's one of kind of those discussion items. They want to, some of the staff people want to make sure that the facility is safe if you're using it for parties and things like that, and they have a handle on what you're doing in there. The one thing I learned through some of the reading through this, there's it's better to call it a transient orientated rental than just a vacation, because you may rent it out for a party or something like that. You're not necessarily on vacation. So there's little wording things that we've learned, and other people are working on these same kind of things. And I guess, I guess we haven't heard really from you whether this is a bad thing. Some cities like this, they want to allow their residents and property owners to utilize their property in different ways. So it's kind of, that's a policy decision whether you want to totally ban them or allow some of them. I'm just saying some cities go through this, and in some cases a lot of their constituencies, just like the reason the law was written is because there was a big industry out there for people that own a vacation or a house that maybe not their primary resident, and then they rent it out for short-term vacation, so it's just...
I don't think anybody here wants that.
Okay.
I think we're pretty...
Right,
We just wanted to hear that. for the
Forever.
record, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very against
Or
that.
if we could, maybe keeping it in the business district, which might have a mixed-use project at one time, because that's sort of where our hotels and our business, if we're going to have it at
I
all.
think we talked about that before, that, a couple of years ago, and then the transient, or the vacation rental lobby sort of interfered with bills which were pending, which would have been more favorable to municipalities at the time.
Yeah.
And so we're stuck with what we have now, or maybe it's better now, but...
There may come a time, too, when the state lifts it, in a few years, but it's going to take a while. It's been very incremental.
Right, I mean, the complaint that we heard from residents on the East Island, because the West Island already had the ordinance, was, the transiency. You live in a building, and you've got people coming and going, you don't know who they are, and they're there for a week and a day, and it's, it's not the lifestyle
And they
that...
shove a lot of people into the one unit
Right,
for the one
right,
week.
they've got 20 people, hanging out in a unit.
Can I ask, isn't this usually, dealt with the condos themselves?
Unfortunately, a lot of the condo documents don't have the restrictions, and some of the more modern condo documents are taking advantage of the location, and so they're specifically providing for short-term rentals. Maybe not, a week or something, but maybe a month or 30 days or something like that. Shorter-term rentals in most of the associations.
A little history, though. I think it came to us because a few years ago, when the newer projects started building sales offices, this is a whole new culture coming here. The older condos, mine, yours, will probably never allow it, but now people have said they go in to look at the sales offices, and they're being marketed as short-term rentals. So, we're doing this to, try to head off a problem. And I can tell you, at my house a couple years ago, this very nice couple from England showed up, parked in our parking, asked to help, they were renting, and then later we saw that it was a daily rental in one of the buildings next door, because the guy's European, he sees nothing wrong with that. And, luckily they were nice enough, but they just, they were lost because there's no concierge. If you want to stay in a hotel, we're going to have plenty of hotel rooms, and that's where the daily rental should be.
There we go. All right.
Well, if it's okay, I would like to ask for each of your input to Mike and I by email, just so we don't miss anything. If there's anything you want to add, otherwise we'll use our creativity and have something for first reading in January.
Right, and I support whoever suggested that you speak to our, colleagues at Weiss Serota.
Yeah, I've already been speaking with Susan Trevarthen,
Okay.
who's an expert also on vacation rentals.
Okay.
And
If
she'll-
it's all right with you, maybe you and I can speak.
Sure.
I mean,
Okay, sure.
Mr. Coster. Yeah.
Jeff Coster, 1135. It's bad enough that we have the historic people coming in and curtailing what we can do with our property, telling us what we can do. And now the council is trying to tell us also what we could do with our properties, who we could rent to, who we could have in, who we can't have in. I wouldn't be surprised if at some point you outlaw tidy-whities because they're too restrictive. I think you ought to leave this alone. It doesn't hurt anybody. It's just the people involved in the buildings, and let the condos regulate their own people.
All right, thank you for your comments, Mr. Constantine. All right, so we have direction from council. So, next we have, going back to item...
Item 10.
You want that?
Consideration approval of a contract extension with LMK Pipe Renewal in the amount of $300,000 for the installation of T-liners. We had that approved in the budget. Currently working on a grant with South Florida Water Management District, and if they come through with the amount, I'm going to be coming back to increase that $300,000 so we match what they're giving us and possibly get the whole town done in one shot. So we don't have to do this every year.
Let's hear public comment. Mr. Maya, number 10.
So, Mr. Rick Scott.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
Victor Maya, 1155 103rd Street. No problem, with this. And I read the memo that Mr. Daniel prepared. And specifically, it says, in addition, Developers on the East Island are required to use the sewer laterals that exist on their properties, and in this regard, it is imperative that these laterals are structurally sound and hydraulically efficient. Whenever a construction site exists, all the laterals between the setup manholes, in addition to those servicing the construction site, are proposed to be lined. I think that's wonderful. But you know where I'm going with this, right? Now, why don't we have sufficient impact fees, to cover, these costs? And it's very simple and easy to do. I mean, the main reason why we would have to do this, and this is all on the East Island because you've already taken care of the West Island, in large part, is to accommodate, a lot of these new construction sites. Thank you.
So they were lining sewer.
That's not
Rocky and Drive. They're still doing.
I think they just did the West Island, they started with the West Island first, and then they just worked their way down. But I have a question, I noticed that, this contract pretty much goes back to 2003, 2004?
No, 7.
Is it 7?
I believe so.
Because, I'm just interested to know if, what are our compliance requirements regarding new, going out there for new
We could always go out,
competitive solicitation?
we can go out to bid. They're still the only people that produce this, and it's our opinion that they will raise the price. The last time we went to bid on one of these items, similar to this, not this, obviously, we got hit with a higher cost. The fact that they're keeping it to the middle of the downturn in the economy prices is an advantage to us, and I'm sure if we secure grant money and we do a lot more, if we do the entire town, the price will come down even more, but I don't think it's in our best interest to ask them to go to bid and have them bid to basically the only one making this product. That's why. Otherwise, I would.
Why'd you get up, Randy?
That's true, I remember Isaac.
I know, we started, when they attacked the plantation contract.
I remember when this came before us years ago. They said this was a sole source.
Madam Clerk, call vote, please.
There's no motion.
I'll move it.
The second? A motion, a second, there you go.
Is there no interest in looking at impact fees to cover this?
It's already an impact fee for sewer.
Yep.
But
I just wanna
maybe
vote on this
increasing
thing
it,
we're
because,
running out of time.
right, if we
can talk about
still
impact
have to come up with that kind of money, 300,000, increase
Like I
it.
said, blame Rick Scott.
All right. Councilmember Yaffe.
4.
Councilmember Sullivan.
4.
Councilmember Reed.
4.
Councilmember Morano.
4.
Councilmember Fuller.
4.
Mayor Leonard.
Okay,
Mayor Leonard.
4 passes. Let's go to item number 12.
Yeah, Ron wanted to say something.
Oh, no, I'll come back to that. It's just,
Number 12.
yeah, let me do 12. Consideration of approval of proposal from Hazen and Sawyer in the amount of $65,000 to prepare a plan of compliance for utility-owned sanitary sewer collection systems. We have to have a plan, and we need this company, a company to do it. Randy?
Can't we just cut and paste our old plan? And put it in
There is no, we don't have an
old.
old, this is something that was mandated by the feds to do. And, we met with DEP the other day, and they're, we're doing a lot of things that will be required in the plan, but you have to submit a plan.
Is there any benefit to the town for this expenditure, honestly? I mean, or is this just...
It's required.
Is this just like a required piece of paperwork that's like an unfunded mandate of the federal government?
Thank you. You said how I feel. But there is no way out of it, and we have to do it.
But is there any useful purpose to it? I mean, aside from...
It's just, other than documenting our maintenance systems and what we do to maintain our current system, it just puts it more documentable and trackable.
It's just something to put on your bookshelf, that's all.
Yeah, it's nice. We have public comment. Mr. Maya?
Victor Maya, 1155 103rd Street. For another $10,000, $15,000, maybe we can hire an engineer, that can help this department, for a year or longer, and use that engineer to put together this report that's probably due, in 6 months' time or whatever. I mean, we're gonna spend $65,000. I don't know, probably you gotta spend it, But maybe we can spend it by bringing in somebody that's going to help the town, more long-term to maybe alleviate some of the pressure on the department. Otherwise, pay the money to this engineering firm, great, but we have an opportunity, we have a need, we're going to have to spend the money, so why don't we maybe kick in another 10 or 15 and get somebody full-time? That's all. Thank you.
Michael, is this the type of report that we can do in-house?
No, listen, we can try it in-house, but the compliance is what we're looking to get. And
So I'm seeing it, I think that is a great idea. We can have a warm body in town hall, and you know what? What is the downside of us screwing up the report? Oops, we did something wrong. What are they going to do? Fine us? If this is a brand-new requirement, we don't even know what the normal is. We don't even know what the benchmark is, for this compliance requirement.
Listen, I'll have Randy come up and explain.
And is there a deadline? I know it said since December of 13, but is there a soft deadline?
March 2016. It's been in the works since 2013, but we were sort of waiting for the Miami County Commission to sign off on it, which they did recently. You're right. I told Ron I'm going to try to give this my best shot, and I've started to work on it. This is a fallback position because we have to do the plan by March. If we don't do it right, we will get a second chance to correct it.
Right,
That's
so
a good thing. However, it is a lot of work. I have 11 reference documents that I need to review. This is one. I have 10 more like it, which I've started to read. The decree says we must look at the most appropriate methods in all 11 documents and incorporate it in our plan.
So can we get like an independent contractor for like a 6-month contract? Just like he said,
I agree with
someone
you.
that makes $150,000 a year, let's contract them for 6 months. They come to our office every day and work with us, help you do it, and maybe we can, we can have a little bit, a couple more hands on board. And, our money, at least that is...
As if I thought hiring another engineer was the way, I would recommend it.
Temporarily, he's saying, for that amount of money, so you can get 6 months. I agree.
One independent contractor.
Exactly.
The same thing.
This Hazen and Sawyer company, they have experience in doing this report. It's not like somebody's just going to give it a crack.
Nobody has experience in these reports. It's a brand new report.
But they've had experience in preparing similar types. The SSES, for instance, Sanitary Sewer System Evaluation Report is something similar in kind. We've done it every year, and I've had experience with putting it together because we've never used a consultant to do that.
Right.
But they've been working on it since it came into, the decree was drafted. We've been going to these meetings for over 2 years.
We don't care if it's perfect. We just want it, just comply
It could work. Any engineer you bring on board is going to, unless they're from Hazen and Sawyer, or someone who's familiar with the process, like a Kimberly Horn. I've never seen Kimberly Horn in these meetings. I've only seen Hazen and Sawyer. To be honest with you, I've seen some other Bull Spoon who doesn't really work for us. Hazen and Sawyer is one of our, I believe, a contractor who we can use. But there are not many consultants who attend the meetings.
Let me ask you, what do you recommend? Do you recommend using this firm or...
I would recommend that we kind of use this as a backup. If I do not get this thing done, if I've started it...
I'm sorry, I have to interrupt. As a backup, so we're appropriating 65...
He's trying to do it himself, actually.
Right.
So it's like...
That's what I'm saying, so that...
And then if for some reason he can't do it or finish it, then he won't have...
Well, let me ask you,
So you're asking us to approve
So then
an
defer
expenditure of 65,000, so it's the backup, so we may not spend the 65,000, if Randy's able to do it,
If he's able to do it, we don't
then
spend
the
it.
money stays in.
So the approval will be
Randy, can you get it done by January? And if you can get it done
I
by
need to
January...
make that decision in about a week or two from now.
Oh,
I have a question.
Let's just wait till January.
Well, so if we use this as a backup, we still have some budgeted money for an intern. And I'm talking about a graduate, it's not funny, a graduate student from, a school of engineering who could help you do this and, for...
I have to say, this is not something I would wing. Randy's dealing with the county of this a long time. I wouldn't wing it, and I'm sorry, nothing against the intern, but you have to have somebody that has experience that's going to get this through, and even if it gets pushed back, we still have to deal with rectifying it and making it compliant. And Randy said he was going to take a good shot at it, but if he's coming to me and say, I really need to make sure that in case I can't get it through the county, we do have to have something in the
Why
back.
have we waited almost 2 years, though, to get started on it?
Because the
Have
county
we been-
did not approve. The county has to sign off on it. It was really going back and forth between the county. I was hoping that there was a chance that they might say, you don't have to do it and push it off another 5
Is
years.
there an extension application that we can make?
No, well,
Not really, I mean, we're not the only one in this position, that's why he's able to answer these high fees. But bottom line is, even if I did work and was unsuccessful in getting the plan off, which there's a certain chance, I'm gonna get this done, I almost want, I don't want to commit myself, but I'm probably the best one to do it because I know the ins and outs and I know the way the town works, and I would prefer, for me, the manpower requirements, for instance, that I would not want a consultant to tell us how to man our sources.
Randy, I'm going to take your advice. Can we get a motion and a second? And can I have a second?
What was the motion for?
To approve it.
To approve 65,000 or
To approve that if Mr. Daniels can't actually do it, that they have the backup to hire a firm to do it, so we don't put them in a position.
Back in January, they'll know by then, by the next meeting, I'm not...
So you want to come back in January? Is that enough time for them to hire to do
Why not give a
it?
blank check? I'd like to see...
That's gonna be cutting it close.
Well, that's what he's saying, so...
So we'll, you know what? We'll do what all my clients do, ask for an extension. And I'm sure that they will grant it to us. Thing is, what is the...
the county has asked for these extensions for some time, and they're not granting them anymore.
So we've already asked for an extension?
No, the county has.
County's out.
We don't have the ability to push back.
Well, what is the penalty if we don't get this done on time?
This is it. The penalty is that we can be hit with a moratorium and any of our new projects will not get connected to our sewer system. The county will not allow that. That's the problem.
That makes a couple of people really happy.
Just a second, because we had a sewer moratorium and it also affected the business district. That means no medical office, no...
Like the coffee in the community center.
All right, you going to second it?
I'm gonna second this. I can't get past, I like the idea of either hiring somebody, independent contractor, and getting some additional use out of them, or waiting till January and cutting it close. I don't like this.
Call vote, Madam Clerk.
Councilmember Yaffe.
For.
Councilmember Sauer.
Against.
Councilmember Reed.
Opposed.
Councilmember Morano.
Opposed.
Councilmember Fuller.
Against.
I don't have to ask you, do I?
It
fails.
Movement to adjourn.
All right, we're done. A second, we are adjourned, 11:05.
Was there anybody here from the video?